City Council and Successor Agency to the Community Development Commission. The meeting will now come to order at 6:14 p.m. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website, as noted on the agenda. If any of the members should have a conflict of interest, please announce any item you are recusing from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. For the invocation and pledge of allegiance, tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Leal, and the pledge of allegiance will be led by Police Chief Camacho.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, the rest of the councilmen and councilwomen. It's always a blessing to be here. I have missed a few. I have sent one of the ministers, but it's always good to see each one of you, our chief and our manager and all of you and the crowd that is here. So let us come to our feet, please. And I'd just like to share a quick verse from Psalms 34:15, and it says, "The eyes of the Lord are on the righteousness, and his ears are open to their prayer." So as we pray, just remember that we come into the presence of God. Father, we just want to thank you for our city, for our leaders, for the staff, and for each one of the persons that are here tonight. Father, you are such a good Father that you take care of us, you provide. And Father, we just asking for wisdom and grace from you upon each one of our leaders. And whatever takes place here, Father, we honor you and please you and also be good to each one of us. Father, we ask this in your precious name. We ask this in the precious name of Jesus Christ. And can we say amen? Thank you.
Ready, begin. I played.
Thank you, Pastor Leal, and thank you, Police Chief Camacho. City Clerk, please call roll the members of the City Council and Successor Agency.
Thank you. Members of the City Council and Successor Agency, Chavez.
Present.
Councilmember Pulido, is not joined us yet. Councilmember Sanchez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena.
Present.
And Mayor Gomez has not joined the meeting as of yet.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. We will now move to the presentations. City Manager, please introduce the presentations, and we will be taking them in a different order, starting with the Cal Home Grant Recipient Awards.
Thank you, Mayor Barcena. This first item that we'll have is the Cal Home Grant Recipient Awards. We've got Omar and representatives from Global Urban Strategies that helps us administer this program. At this time, I turn it over to Omar for the presentations. Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, and everyone from the city present. We're here to present 3 awards today, and I'll introduce the program administrator, Mrs. Cynthia Iniguez.
Hi, good evening, City Council, City Mayor. We're here to present 3 recipients for the owner-occupied program for home rehabilitation and ADU conversions.
They are Miss Ana Garcia, who is actually doing some home rehab, Eliana Tellez, who's going to be doing an ADU, and Maria Garcia, who's also going to be doing an ADU, all for about $100,000 from the program. And once again, this program is a reimbursable grant that the city is getting reimbursed for all fees and all program administration of it. So if you could go and come and have Ms. Ileana, Miss Ileana. And her beautiful daughter. So, at this, I don't know if it's appropriate to take pictures with the family right now.
Of course, yes, we would love to take pictures with the recipients of the money.
And is Mr. Nicholas Garcia here? Yeah. And Miss Ana Garcia? Just to give you a brief recap, this program is a program that the city has for your residents. It is a first-time home buyers program for $100,000 that is provided to purchase a new home, and $100,000 as an owner-occupied rehab program to help with repairs, and if you want to go and create an ADU or legalize an ADU.
Thank you so much, and I think we're gonna watch a movie now. No, just kidding. But we'd love to take a picture with you guys, if you guys don't mind coming right over here, and we'll take a picture. Thank you.
One last item, Madam Mayor, members of the council, we're going to have two other presentations that are coming up probably within the next month or so for first-time home buyers. We have two buyers that are going to be purchasing in the city, so looking forward to presenting those as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And for the record, I have Mayor Gomez entering at 6:22. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Mayor Pro Tem Barcena and Mayor Gomez. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Sanchez to present the certificate of recognitions for the CERT program.
The City of Bell Gardens Certificate of Recognition presented hereby congratulates you on completing the FEMA-approved 20-hour Community Emergency Response Team training hosted by Bell Gardens Police Department in collaboration with Los Angeles County Fire Department. CERT is a free FEMA-approved 20-hour training that provides residents with the skills and tools necessary to take care of themselves, their families, and their neighbors in the event of a disaster. We commend you for your time and dedication in disaster preparedness. You are an inspiration to fellow Bell Gardens residents and the community. So I'm gonna call up the completers of CERT, and if you can just come up as I'm calling you up.
Councilmember Sanchez, I'm sorry to interrupt. I should have asked the police chief, Camacho, if he could announce the representative from the fire department that conducted the program so they could talk a little bit about it. I apologize
Perfect, yeah.
for that, if that's okay with you. Thank you, chief.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. So tonight I have a lot of, I'd like to just start off by saying that the support that we get from the Los Angeles County Fire Department with this program, they actually came out and they conducted the training. So tonight with us is Chief Lewis and some of his staff, and then our community liaison is going to be Vivero. She's going to talk a little bit about the program and how much help they actually provided to us, and the services that were provided to the residents, and actually prepared us with what could potentially happen here in the future. So if you come up here, man.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and residents of Bell Gardens. My name is Rosemary Vivero, and it's great to be full circle. I know most of you don't know this, including the chief. I did my internship here in 1985. I worked with Bell Gardens Police Department as a youth counselor. So you started my career, you guys weren't even born yet, but I was here. So it's nice to come back to this community that, taught me so much, and I got to know the families here. So I am a community service liaison with the Los Angeles County Fire Department. And what we do is, besides, coming to council meetings and teaching, teaching about how to take care of yourself, we try to do this so people can learn what to do in case of any kind of emergency. Everybody thinks about a big earthquake. No, an emergency can be a fire. Emergency can be a SIG alert where you can't move out of your house. I recently had to evacuate people because of land movement. So I want to teach you how to take care of yourself from emergencies. We have the ability, obviously, to do it in Spanish, English, and Mandarin. So we're out there trying to do this. This class in particular was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was 20 hours, but we can also do 3 Saturdays. We can do it during the week. And we have the newest program, which is hybrid CERT, which you can do it. It's 12 hours online, and you only just come for 1 day and a half. So we are doing whatever we can to try to promote emergency preparedness. So here today is Chief Lewis, one of our instructors, and our soon-to-be instructor here, his son. There's so much pride in teaching. Luis Gonzalez also teaches, he's one of our meat and truck drivers, but he used to teach CPR in the community colleges. So he comes with a lot of knowledge. Some of the other instructors that weren't able to come were Alberto Hugo, Michael Saldana, and Evo Eligio. They enjoyed it. I know the community liked, because when we try to teach, it's not just speaking Spanish, it's speaking community. It's not just translating the words, but interpreting whatever those things are. So that's as much as we have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Sanchez. Again, sorry for the interruption.
No, thank you so much for the explanation. And I do want to commend everybody that committed to the 3 days, the 20 hours. I know that it was a labor of time and dedication, and just to know that we have so many prepared people within our community to help us. So thank you so much. So the first person, Lucia. Marta. Areli. Margarita. Jesús. María Dávila. Alexa. Itzel. Liliana. María González. Esaúl. Elvia. Victoria. Jorge. Sylvester? Ana Maria? Yanira? Sylvia? Carmi? Y Myra.
If I could interrupt for just one moment, and give Councilmember Pulido an opportunity to make an announcement. I have you, entering the or joining the meeting at 6:27. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be joining remotely due to just cause circumstances under AB 2949 due to childcare.
Just for clarification, that's AB 2449. Is that correct, Councilmember Polito?
My apologies, yes.
Thank you.
At this time, if there's anybody from the community that would like to speak about their experience or, Chief, if you'd like to speak on it.
Hello, good afternoon. Estoy bien emocionado de que nos vamos a
I'm
recibir.
very excited that we're going to receive the certificate from you. We learned a lot about how to rescue people, help people when there's an earthquake. So I'm happy to know that, how to help people when they're having problems or save lives while the firefighters and paramedics are arriving. So I thank the instructors we had who taught us this program. That's all. Thank you.
Buenas tardes.
Good evening.
Tuve una experiencia súper emocionante.
I also had a very exciting experience because we learned so many things in case of an emergency that I loved this program. Thank God we finished it, and I invite the community. Let's have more people go to these classes to better our city. Thank you so much to the people and to the officers who were with us. And besides that, it's a beautiful thing because so many things happen and so many experiences and happen, and sometimes you don't even know when that's happening. So thank you so much.
I'll just say a couple of words. First of all, I'd like to thank LA County Fire Department for really just coming out and giving out this free training. Thank you for your partnership. And a lot of the members here are actually from Neighborhood Watch. And one of the things that I take pride is that we're building the partnerships with our citizens, that they know that when we were to have an emergency that we could count on them and they could count on us. So again, thank you very much for always supporting us, supporting the community, and really kind of, preparing us for what could potentially be happen tomorrow with an emergency. Thank you very much.
All right. If we can please quiet down, we do have more presentations to cover.
Mayor Gomez, the next item as we're taking these out of order is the recycled fashion videographer and designers certificates. And I will turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Barcena for this presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. So as I present these certificates, I want to tell a little story about how this all happened. We have a Earth Day event that we combined with an art walk this year, and it's the first year that we do that, so we were very excited. And we have a local group for the arts called BG Arts that is basically a bunch of residents that are contributing and volunteering in order to grow the arts in Bell Gardens. And this year, they wanted to have a recycled fashion show in which everything that they designed was made from recyclable materials. And luckily, we had a lot of volunteers. We all got together, and it was a very, very successful event. So successful that we got the most views on one of the city's posts ever. Highly, correct me if I'm wrong, but was this like 80,000 views, 75,000 or something like that? Okay, 60,000 views, right? 66,000 views. So the most viewed post. So we're very proud of our volunteers. And we are going to be recognizing the designers today. And I do have one video clip that we'll play at the end from one of the designers that is currently in New York. She couldn't make it, but she did leave a video clip for us. So while Jailes gets that ready, we are going to go ahead and announce and present the certificates, which look like this for those of you watching. Okay. This is presented to Maria Estela Acevedo for the Recycle Fashion Show Earth Day event. In grateful acknowledgement of your exceptional creativity and dedication as a volunteer fashion designer for the BG Arts Recycle Fashion Show at the Bell Gardens Earth Day event. Your innovative designs crafted from everyday recycled materials have significantly contributed to raising awareness about sustainability and environmental conservation. Your remarkable talent and commitment to eco-friendly fashion inspire us all. And I will go ahead and call the rest of the designers. Sorry, technical difficulties. Maria de Jesus Bárcena, that's also my mom. Rocio Bárcena, my sister, yes. Cisco 3000. And Carolina Hernandez, who is not here today, but she's actually a very special person that volunteered. She's a veteran, and she designs, some of the things that she does is designs with uniforms from the Army and the military. And we do have a video clip in which she wanted to thank the council, if we can play that, please.
Hello, I'm Carolina Hernandez, and I would like to thank the City of Bell Gardens, the staff and the volunteers who worked very hard to put together the Recycle Fashion Show on April 20th, 2024. I'm currently in Rhode Island attending a senior enlisted academy with the Navy, so I couldn't make it. But on behalf of my models and myself, I accept the certificate, and thank you again for allowing us to serve the community.
Thank you. We also have here today Alejandra Munoz, who's another designer and resident of the city of Bell Gardens. And Ana Elena Cifuentes, is she here today? Yes, Ana Elena, congratulations. Now, this is not all. We have more people that we're recognizing today because as part of the fashion show, we also integrated, we helped put together a group of photographers from the BG Arts group of community artists that helped us be sort of the paparazzi for this entire event. And we had a wide range of participants. We had professional photographers, and some of them are here today with us, but we also had kids that are learning how to take pictures, kids that are aspiring to experiment with photography and learn that craft. And I also want to go ahead and recognize them. We have here Alexis Bárcena, Camilo Beltrán, Ernesto Ramírez, Jesse Orozco, and we do have Cecilia Isabal, who is also, I believe she's on the chat. She's welcome to join us if she feels comfortable, but Cecilia couldn't make it today. She's here virtually, however. And last but not least, we do have Joshua Figueroa, who's here today. And I would like to take this moment to point out that we had a friendly competition with the photographers, and Joshua, together with Cecilia, were the winners of the contest. They got over 600 likes on their pictures, and they were amazing. We do have a couple of pictures that we can show here from our photographers that volunteered, and we're gonna put them on the screen. But I just want to say thank you, and I also want to open it up. If anybody has any words that they would like to say, you're welcome to come up and share it with us. But we really appreciate everything that you do. And that concludes the presentation. So these are some of the pictures from the fashion show. All of those garments are made of recyclable materials. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I just want to thank my sister, Rocio, for teaching me some new skills. I went to her house with some ideas for putting a jacket together, a hoodie, and she just blew my mind, like with her knowledge about sewing and design. And I really enjoyed being part of this event, and I encourage everybody to explore it next year if we're able to put it together again. It's a great learning opportunity, and I got to bond with a lot of people and learn new skills. And I hope that everybody is inspired today to be creative and put on a good fashion show next year.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Yo quiero darle las gracias a Marco.
Good evening to everyone. I want to thank Marco because whenever we have an idea, he supports us. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I would like this to serve so that next year is better because there were a lot of people interested, but very little time. I want to thank everyone because we worked together, and what came out well was the coordination from Rocio Bárcena, Marco's sister, and all of the friends who participate. I think we made a good team. We did good work, and I hope we get together next year with ahead of time, and not just young people, also adults, so that we communicate to young people so that they can learn more about recycling different types of materials. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ana. Thank you to all the volunteers, the photographers. And one last thing, for the winners of the contest, for the winners, the photographers that won the most liked pictures, we do have, our attorneys have a gift card for you guys. So make sure you get that before you go. And if you guys can all do me a favor and join me and the council for a picture up front. Thank you. And if my colleagues had anything to add, please go ahead. I totally skipped you. I apologize.
Well, I would like to say that I really enjoyed the photos. The photos, the videos that were all posted, they were amazing. And it's like, especially the one with the caution tape. I love that one. They were great job, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I don't. She can come.
Mayor Gomez, the fourth and final item that we have is the proclamation recognizing LGBTQ plus month as the month of June. And just as a reminder to the council, council adopted a policy about 4 years ago. This is the fourth year that we have flown the LGBTQ plus flag in front of city buildings and also have banners up on our banner posts on Florence Avenue as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. City Manager. So before I read the proclamation, I just want to say, I know that a lot of people don't maybe understand or agree with why we need to fly the pride flag. I think one thing that we need to keep in mind is that I don't think that there are very many other relationships that are judged as harshly, that are legislated against as much as a same-sex relationship or the relationships among people who identify as non-binary, simply because of who they love and how they want to live. And so I think it's important that we fly that flag to let people know in our community that they are welcome here. They are welcome here. There is a place for them here in Bell Gardens. We have services for our LGBTQ plus community in Bell Gardens. And, you know, especially for youth who oftentimes are misunderstood, they are not accepted by their families. So many foster youth that are out there, so many kids that are out there are kids that are not able to be at home because their families will not allow them to remain home because of who they are. And so, you know, I just like to say, if your mom doesn't love you, I love you. If your parents can't accept you, I will accept you. So with that, I will go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas as we celebrate June as Pride Month in Bell Gardens, California, we are reminded of what makes California great, a remarkable capacity to advance together across every conceivable difference, no matter the physical distance between us. From our separate homes, we stand together with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and more community of Bell Gardens as they declare their pride in who they are and whom they love. And whereas the LGBTQIA plus community has worked tirelessly for respect, equality, and their very right to exist, their battles have been fought in the courts from marriage equality to demanding equal protection under the law. And while there has been remarkable progress towards acceptance and equality in recent years, members of the LGBTQIA community in the United States and around the world still face an unacceptable level of discrimination and violence. This includes LGBTQIA plus people who aren't safe at home and those who do not have a home in which to stay. And whereas we must push back against those who threaten the safety of LGBTQIA plus Bell Gardens residents and challenge our progress. And we must continue to make the case that all human beings share something fundamental in common. All of us want to be loved, and all of us want to love. We will stand with our LGBTQIA plus family, friends, and neighbors. And whereas Pride celebrations are a prominent feature of Pride Month and in the city of Bell Gardens, we are proud to support our LGBTQ plus IA plus community's right to live their lives out loud. As we celebrate Pride in Bell Gardens and across the state, we must continue to demand equal rights for all to create a California for all. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Gabriela Gomez, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as LGBTQIA plus Pride Month in Bell Gardens and encourage all residents to eliminate prejudice wherever it exists and celebrate our LGBTQIA plus community. And I would now like to open it up for comments from our council.
I just want to say that I appreciate the mayor's words. I feel like every time this part of the year comes up, I do hear a lot of our constituents. They have different opinions. And I want you to know that you can always reach out to me. Let me know what you think about what we decide to do here. But this is one of those non-negotiable things for me as your elected official. I feel very strongly about each individual's freedom of expression, about their rights. And we really, really want to make Bell Gardens a place where people can be themselves, right? And that's what this is all about. And I am sure that you wouldn't want anybody making you feel alienated in your hometown. And this is part of that. And I appreciate the mayor's words. It's not an easy topic to talk about when not everyone agrees. Nevertheless, we got to be transparent and honest. So thank you.
And so with that, we will move on to open the public hearing. We will now begin with item number 1 on the agenda. At this time, I will open the public hearing at 6:56 p.m. City Manager, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is for consideration of an ordinance that would amend Title 5 and Title 9 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code to regulate banquet facility uses. Our Deputy City Manager, Community Development Director, Gus Romo, is on vacation this week. So we have Stephen Jones, our city planner, here to provide a presentation with some more detailed information on this ordinance change. Thank you, Mayor. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor, honorable council members. There is a presentation and I will start it now. This item is ordinance number 944 to regulate bank facilities in the industrial zone by identifying the use in the business regulatory permit processing of Bell Gardens Municipal Code Title V and creating a process that augments what's already done in the city's commercial zones through a zoning code amendment. During this presentation, the council will hear support for the decision to propose a zoning code amendment, ordinance analysis, and a summary of your planning commission's proceedings and recommendation to city council to, number one, determine the common sense CEQA exemption, introduce the ordinance by title and waive full reading, and conduct a public hearing to consider ordinance number 944 to regulate banquet facilities in the industrial zone. A part of the background, over the years, members of staff have been approached by property owners with land located within the city's industrial zones for highest and best uses, and specifically determine if banquet facilities may be permitted. Based on Euclidean practice of zoning, this hasn't been an option. That is characterized by segregation of uses into distinct zones, and staff has answered no to banquet facilities correctly and respectfully, but then proceeded to also inform stakeholders of the sometimes rigorous processes to amend zoning and the city's general plan. As the council is aware, property owners and developers seeking to repurpose buildings must often apply for variances in addition to rezoning and amendments, which can be time-consuming, costly, and uncertain. The process can discourage innovation and adaptive reuse. By conditionally permitting bank facilities in the industrial zones, it fosters significant contributions to the improvement in the city's aesthetic, land use function, and particularly in light of vacancies caused by the recent pandemic, allows adaptive reuse. At the regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting held on May 15th, your Planning Commission, after reviewing all the facts and evidence of a duly noticed public hearing, recommended that your council approve ordinance number 944 for the reuse and adaptability of underutilized buildings in the industrial zone for banquet facilities. The ordinance the Planning Commission considered included a few immaterial, inadvertent, and erroneous words from a different ordinance. That correction has been made and the appropriate language is prepared and released with the issue of the latest version of the ordinance, which you've seen. Ordinance number 944 includes proposed locational, developmental, and parking standards for facilities, which would offer private enterprise subjective requirements to meet the needs of residents for places of assembly, diversify the local economy, and potentially promote the unique character and cultural vibrancy that often emerges from mixed uses. Ordinance number 944 would clarify Title V to add the banquet facility use and definition for inclusion in the business regulatory process so that banquet facilities could participate in issuances of business licenses. Ordinance number 944 would also add the proposed banquet facility provisions into Title IX to streamline review of potential discretionary entitlement requests, which would still need to come before your Planning Commission for review of proposals for compliance with the language in the ordinance. Ordinance number 944 would provide more flexible zoning practices by allowing a wider range of uses. This mix of uses flexibility is distinct from mixed use zoning, which the city already has, but both can lead to more sustainable urban growth and the revitalization of neglected areas. So the zoning implications here show that already in zones C4 and CM, commercial areas, the banking facilities use is conditionally permitted. The proposal to add banquet facilities in the industrial zone would provide an expansion of opportunities into the properties located within the south industrial and the east industrial. So the buffer is not necessarily a buffer. It's just to show that there are residential properties that would be affected, but there are also residential properties that are already affected in the commercial zones that conditionally permit banquet facilities.
And Stephen, just for color coding purposes, so that magenta, dark red color and the violet color that sort of forms a V down at Garfield and Eastern.
Right.
Those are locations that already, banquet facilities are already allowed. So it's
Correct.
the areas in the dark blue that would be further allowed, but again, all of them are subject to CUP requirements for individual properties or businesses that were interested in having banquet use.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Of particular concern for stakeholders is parking. Ordinance number 944 proposes one vehicle parking space for every 50 square feet of assembly area, and one for each 4 fixed seats up from 21 square feet and 3 fixed seats. So this would be an expansion of potential and possibility, but in keeping with the average of surrounding cities' requirements. The general plan consistency for ordinance number 944, it is found to be consistent with the general plan policies 3, 4, and 5. This promotes economic vitality and revitalization and a stimulated business community. And if approved, no plan amendments would be necessary for its administration or implementation. And to recap and recommend, during this presentation, the council heard Planning Commission decision and recommendation background, implications for the reuse and adaptability of underutilized buildings made challenging by Euclidean zoning, and PC findings, including highlighting repurposed buildings to stimulate the community and the economy. That justifies staff's recommendation for the council to find the proposed ordinance exempt, introduce by title only, and waive full reading of ordinance number 944. And staff is available for questions.
Okay, we will now move to council member questions or comments. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
Can we review that slide regarding parking again? Just because I know parking is an issue within our city, so I wanted to see what the proposed parking looks like with this ordinance.
Absolutely.
Just gauging, do you guys know how impactful this would be to the residents parking on the current areas that we're considering to allow banquet halls?
Yes. So the proposal is to, again, expand. Right now, it's one for 3 fixed seats and one for 21 square feet. A survey of the areas surrounding the city show that we're about on average, but there are bigger opportunities in, for example, Commerce, where there's one for 4, and in Cudahy, where there's 1 space for every 50 square feet. So because of the nature of the reuse and the adaptability, the parking would essentially be a shared use or shared parking for multiple uses. So in the day, if an industrial building still happens to have an office or industrial manufacturing type business there, the parking could be accommodated because of the lack of activity during the evenings, or typically when you find banquets being held. And so we looked at that opportunity to, again, increase and expand the way for folks to improve property, but also accommodate the parking that would be required. So 50 square feet versus 21 square feet, it's anywhere on the order of magnitude 50% higher, but it's only 1 space for every 50 square feet of assembly area. And then we also looked at the fixed seats to make sure that if there are different modalities in a particular potential, those could be accommodated as well. So it's on average, the approximate average of surrounding.
Thank you so much.
Stephen, it's fair to say, I think staff's estimation would be the challenge for banquet facilities, even within the current zones that are allowed. Parking seems to be the biggest challenge. In some cases, so far, it's been insurmountable for some banquet facilities to achieve the parking. But that's, again, based on pretty stringent parking requirements, and also due to the somewhat unique nature of Bell Gardens and the impacted parking that already exists. So by making this allowable within industrial zone, doesn't necessarily guarantee that there are going to be any facilities that meet the CUP requirements. We would expect that there could be some, but it's not a guarantee and it would have to go through the process. And I think your planning commissioners also understand the necessity to maintain parking for residents and existing businesses. So those stringent requirements are still there.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Is the requirement for the 21 square feet, does it apply to multi-story buildings as well?
It would. So any area that would be proposed for the particular banquet facility would have to accommodate both the 50 square feet, not the 21 in this case, but the 50 feet of assembly area for the calculation of parking.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the presentation, Stephen. I have a couple of questions. My first one is, how many banquet facilities do we have in the city at the moment?
I don't know. I could look that up for you in terms of business licensing, but that's been part of the problem is the Title V business license designation isn't there. And so if someone were to come in for a business license for a bank facility, we might ask for a different type of license because there's no distinction. So that's part of the proposal, is to make sure that that bank facility is clarified in Title V. A lot of times we'll see that people, or like businesses with the casino, for example, they have several business license types or several alcoholic beverage license types, for example. So there's a ABC license for bank facilities. If someone comes in for that, we'll know that they're either doing business in the city. And so in terms of census tracts, I could look that up too, but I can get back to you on that. There's no specific bank facility in our business license code.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I would appreciate that information. I know in the past there's been, I'd say, concerns from our residents in regards to some of the banquet facilities, not just only about impacting parking, but in regards to the noise pollution that some of them might cause. I think a couple of years ago, we had a couple of issues in regards to the noise pollution. So my question would be, what sort of regulations or maybe impact would this possibly have for the surrounding residents in those industrial zones?
Absolutely. So, Mr. Councilmember, we would look at what's existing in the noise ordinance. And so those stringent requirements are, or standards, I should say, constrict what time of day noise can be generated. It restricts the decibels with which we're measuring from the property line that can be heard. And so we would, number one, make sure that the noise ordinance is observed, but then beyond that, when property owners, for example, are notified of a potential conditional use permit, they have the opportunity to opine and testify and make sure that their needs and desires are met, and especially if they're within, the approximate area of what we're looking at for additional impacts to residential zones. So yeah, it's a potential issue that could be addressed with the condition of approval in terms of constricting, not only to making sure that the noise ordinance is observed, but that the timing could perhaps be a condition of approval for weekdays, or just to make sure that they're observing a specific, if warranted, concern.
The reason I bring that up, aside from the past occasions, was because I know as I look at, as I'm scanning the map, one of the areas that is very reflective is one of our senior centers that's located right next to, that's around that area, the Clara Senior Center. So I know that's a big concentration of our residents, particularly those that are in age. So I would imagine they have different schedules as to everyone else throughout the city, maybe sleeping a little bit earlier, waking up a little bit earlier as well. So I would say, maybe in the future, and I understand that we at the end of the day have discretion about the CUP and whatnot, but in regards to the CUP, what would be a reason that the council would deny granting a CUP even with this ordinance change?
Not meeting the locational standards. So there's locational criteria that includes if you're within certain distance of a residence. Again, first of all, we have to notify that that's happening. So not only the residential zones, but the senior center as well. We specifically look at distance between residents and, I'm looking for the language here, and the actual activity of the assembly area or the physical space of a stage, for example. And so if that distance is in conflict with what the noise ordinance says in terms of what we would ask them to anticipate a decibel would be, or if there's going to be a DJ or a live band, those types of things are part of the locational requirements in terms of where an actual use is situated. So if, especially if it's adjacent, we're going to be looking at that, those conditions of approval. I don't know that we would essentially be able to deny them outright, but when they're not meeting conditions of approval, that's something where we would look at in terms of revocation. But I think at first review, the subjectivity of, or the discretion of the commission is to say, does this meet what this new ordinance says? And beyond that, I think it's a matter of enforcement and making sure that the hours of operation and the, again, decibels are observed.
Yeah, that was sort of where my question was alluding to in regards to if they meet all the requirements, everything from parking to the, you know, at the moment, if I want to open a banquet facility per se, and you know, I'm going to assume that we're not going to have, maybe the decibel per se is not going to be loud enough to the point where it might be a disturbance to the nearby residents. But you know, down the line, if we do get some calls, and I'm sharing because I know in the past we've gotten calls about noise concerns, sometimes really late at night. What are the next steps we have to take? So what I would say follow up is in the future, when we do consider these CUPs, even if they meet per se all the requirements, just be cognizant of the locations that they're being placed. And I don't know if it's already in place, but perhaps consistently have them every other year or so come back and renew that CUP if that's something that's not in place already with this particular item. Thank you so much.
I do have a question regarding any banquet halls that are currently operated. I know we don't know how many there are, but assuming that this passes, would they be required to get a new business permit that designates them as a banquet hall? And
Business licenses, Madam Mayor, are required to be renewed yearly, so they would come back every year. In terms of whether or not there are conditional use permits that authorize, those would depend on the grant terms. So I'd have to look those up as well. The only one I can think of is the biggest one we have, the casino. There's no, requirement for them to come back for additional events, for example. So they have bank facilities incorporated into their conditional use permit to operate. So that time period or that grant term is the only thing that would require them to reapply for the actual entitlement. The business licenses are renewed annually.
yeah. And
I do have one final comment. So first of all, I appreciate the concern coming from our council because we want businesses to thrive. We want to create more opportunities, but we also want to make sure that our residents are experiencing a decent quality of life. And during my time here on the council, I have run into a few hurdles that relate to noise ordinance issues and the enforcement of it. So I just want to not warn, but maybe just food for thought as we move forward with this process of allowing or expanding what it is that we permit in these areas. If the complaints do come to us, if things do get worse, which is obviously an increased possibility of that, we need to make sure that we have the ability to enforce the ordinance, right? We need to make sure that we have the means to provide a citation if needed, because to my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I believe we don't or haven't really given out noise violation citations basically for the most part in the last few years. Is that accurate?
I would say within the last 8 to 10 months, we haven't given out any citations. We take the approach of the administrative process first, and the section is a little bit, we're leaning more on, if we go out on the third visit for noise complaint, then we actually charge the property owner. But it's very minimal what we do with that enforcement.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that we have been enforcing it, because a couple of years ago, and I agree with you. I mean, I'm not surprised that we haven't given any citation in the last 10 months, because I haven't heard from residents too many complaints about noise. But about 2 years ago, that wasn't the case. And 2 years ago, I did ask for a report, I asked for information, and we really hadn't given any citations for many years. And as long as we're sort of united on this and we can deal with any consequences that may come from this, then I feel like I'm all about supporting local businesses and the growth. That's just my 2 cents, 5 cents, 25 cents. Make it $1.
Inflation.
And Mayor Pro Tem, just to help give some context to some of the noise issues that we were having a few years ago, some of that was definitely related to COVID-19. So there were some businesses not that far from here in Bell Gardens.
People were coughing too loudly. That's what it was.
Well, in an effort to try to increase revenues, we're holding a lot of outdoor events that they normally would have held indoor. But as ways of kind of skirting the COVID-19 requirements from public health, they were putting them outdoors, not being very diligent about getting event permits and things like that. I think the reason that we haven't heard as much of it lately is because people are doing things again back indoors in the places that they're supposed to do it. Since that time, we did have at least one prevalent unlicensed facility that was impacting residents that we're getting a lot of calls on. We were able to employ the city prosecutor's office and get actual prosecutorial relief through courts to stop that from happening. So we haven't had any calls from that facility in over a year at this point. So we would anticipate if there were any new banquet facilities to go through the CUP process, they'd be scrutinized pretty heavily, especially from the fact that this is the first time they'd be allowed to apply in these zones. And then we're confident that we have the ability through CUP revocation and things like that, to pull those CUPs. Again, kind of different in COVID. I think you had some businesses that were on the precipice of just shutting down completely, and they were willing to take some chances that they probably otherwise wouldn't have taken in a more secure business environment at that time. So the point is well taken. It has been an issue about 24 to 48 months ago. It was a very prevalent issue, almost as prevalent as parking and things like that. We think at this point we've got a handle on it, should be able to keep a handle on it going forward. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
And then, Council, just a quick search of abc.ca.gov for caterers permit license types in the city of Bell Gardens. There are 3. Looks like American Legion, El Picante, and Park West Bicycle Casino. So that's just the really quick search. There may be other types that could operate as banquets as well, but based on the license type, 3 in the city.
Okay, if we have no more comments or questions, we will now open public comments for this item, public participation. So we will now open public comments for this item. I will call 3 speakers at a time. Please make your way over to the podium to line up, and City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 1. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will first hear from speakers that are in person, and we did not receive any written comments on public hearing item number 1. I did get one public comment card, and I'm not really sure if this is for this item, since it is a public hearing item. Is it Monica Reese? Did you want to speak on this item, or was it non-agendized? Oh, María Luis, excuse me. Sí, quería hablar de esta.
Señora, ¿es para este tema que quiere hablar o es otro tema?
Yo vine a poner mi punto y me doy cuenta de que se está tratando del asunto más o menos por ahí, por lo
I
que
am
yo vine.
here to make my point, and I really didn't know about this one, but my name is Maria Ruiz, and I'm coming to ask you, since you need to do justice, you need to be fair and balanced, shouldn't go too far to one side and ignore the other side. My complaint and my question is, if the ordinance, the noise ordinance regarding quiet time is in effect, because I have neighbors and they do their parties, not every weekend, but when they do, we're talking about till 1 a.m. It's no problem if you hear a little music occasionally from your neighbor. We can't be that picky, but it shouldn't interfere with your life. I called the police department twice. The dispatcher treated me very well, and the police showed up, but the people holding the party just blew off the police. They didn't pay attention. Why? They know perfectly well what the city ordinances are. So the third time I called, the dispatcher said the police can come to your house and you would have to fill out a form so that they go back again and then they can do something more forceful so that they quiet down the noise. And I said, no, it's 1 a.m. How am I going to have to let the officer in? We're already in bed. That's not the way I want to deal with this. But so I hope that you as a council will study this matter and give the police more authority so that they can go and say, it's time to quiet down. You have to quiet down. Without me having to fill out a form, because that's risky. Do you think I want my neighbors to know who filled out the form? That's risky. I don't want to put myself and my family at risk. We could be talking about anger, revenge against me, even though I'm not the one who's doing this, who is disturbing the peace of the neighbors. That's why we have the police department. But it seems that the police department doesn't have a lot of authority. Change the system that we have to fill out a form. There should be an ordinance and all residents should know this is the time, and the police department should be able to shut them down. Thank you.
That was the last comment, and I don't see anyone virtually raising their hand.
Okay, if there is no objection by the members of the City Council Successor Agency, I will close public participation for public hearing item number 1. Okay, and moving on, may I have a motion to find, I'm sorry. If there are no further council member questions or comments, I will now close the public hearing at 7:25. Now, may I have a motion to find proposed ordinance number 944, Exhibit 1, categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and waive full reading and introduce ordinance number 944, amending Title 5 and Title 9 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code to regulate banquet facility uses.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Sanchez de Leon and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Barcena. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulido,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena,
Yes.
and Mayor Gomez.
Yes. We will now begin with item number 2 on the agenda. At this time, I will reopen the public hearing at 7:26 PM. City Manager, will you please reintroduce this item?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item.
Sí, gracias, alcaldesa Gómez. Este asunto es la consideración de la ordenanza 940 para considerar un acuerdo de desarrollo con Mr. Nice Guy en la propiedad de 6230 de la Avenida Eastern en la ciudad de Bell Gardens. Este es un asunto que se está volviendo a presentar. Y en este momento le paso la voz al planificador municipal si quiere agregar algún comentario a este asunto antes de continuar. Brevemente, voy a recapitular. Buenas tardes, honorable alcalde y concejales. Este asunto, como mencionó el gerente, es la consideración continua de la ordenanza 940 para autorizar el acuerdo de desarrollo 2023-072. Durante esta presentación, el Consejo escuchará los antecedentes de la decisión y la recomendación, el alcance del acuerdo, los hallazgos de la Comisión de Planificación que justifican la recomendación del Consejo Municipal para renunciar a la lectura completa de la ordenanza y considere autorizar la ejecución del acuerdo de desarrollo al final de la audiencia. El 13 de mayo del 2024, la Comisión de Planificación, o el 17 de abril, perdón, la Comisión de Planificación votó 4-0 con una ausencia para aprobar el permiso de uso condicional y recomendarle al Consejo Municipal la aprobación del acuerdo de desarrollo para un edificio comercial nuevo de 2.500 pies cuadrados para una tienda de cannabis en el 6231 de la Avenida Eastern. Como resultado de participación de la comunidad y mediación de la comisión, se modificó el plan del sitio propuesto y se aprobó en el permiso de uso condicional. Si se aprueba, la ordenanza 940 autorizará el acuerdo para disponer un 10% de las ventas brutas y un beneficio público de $100,000 al año a cambio del acuerdo de 5 años con opción de extender otros 5 años. El 80% de todos los beneficios comunitarios se dedicarían a programas para juventud, educacional y recursos para los programas de vivienda de la ciudad. La ordenanza 940 autorizará la ejecución
Retail use storefront that would be similar in scope to other commercial retail uses and regulated by multiple agencies. California Department of Cannabis Control provides oversight, and cannabis activity enforcement and city staff will work in tandem with state and other local efforts to ensure compliance with required conditions of approval and state law. And to recap and review, during this presentation, your council heard the decision recommendation background from the previous council meeting and the meeting of the Planning Commission. It's staff's recommendation that you waive full reading of ordinance number 940 and consider authorizing the DA's execution at the close of the continued public hearing. And I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We will now move to council member questions or comments. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
Sorry, real quick, Mayor, would you like to have the applicant speak at this point or?
Yes, absolutely. If the applicant would like to speak, he's more than welcome to.
Good evening, council members and staff. It's my pleasure to speak to you again on behalf of Mr. Nice Guy Retail. Based on the lengthy presentation we made last time and to be avoiding any repetition, I'm happy to spend our time just going over questions or any concerns that the council members may have, if that's a better use of our time. But I do have a quick slide presentation, but it is mostly just repetitive from what we spoke about last time.
If there are no objections, we can skip the slide presentation since we've all seen it. Everyone okay with that? Okay. And then we will now then move on to questions or comments from our council members.
Thank you.
I have some questions. So just to recap, one of the lines of questioning from your previous meeting.
Yes.
You asserted that your business can sustain the community benefit fees as they were presented to you by the city.
Correct.
Which is 10% of gross receipts in addition to 100K yearly community benefit fee. Was that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So that 10% community benefit rate, is that a rate that your company will absorb, or is that a rate that's going to be passed on to the consumer?
Well, I think it's important to break that into two categories because I think we have the $100,000 that's due annually. And then there's the 10% tax. So if you're asking about the $100,000, then that would be, line item that come out of the business immediately upfront. That's not something that would ultimately be passed on to the consumer. The consumer would see the end tax, the 10% at the retail sales point.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, a lower community benefit as far as the 10%, would that equate to a lower cost to the consumer overall?
Anytime you lower the fees, the cost to the consumer will be less.
Would you say that a lower cost to the consumer at your business makes black market cannabis less competitive?
Yes, it levels a playing field.
And seeing as the black market cannabis business is unregulated and untaxed, what gives you a competitive advantage?
What would give us a competitive advantage would be to level the playing field. I did prepare some slides that actually pertain to this exact question, if you wanted to pull that up. Is that mine? Thank you. Oh, well,
We're working on the presentation,
Oh.
see if we can just get it shifted horizontally from vertical.
It's
That's
fine. I mean, honestly, we can skip the slides. We'll move forward. So the reality is that the black market, has an effective tax rate that's much lower than ours, obviously. We're working at about nearly a 40% effective tax rate. Here I can skip through real quick. Well, anyway, bottom line is that it would be a much more level playing field for us because at a 40, sorry. Okay. And if we go down one more, yeah, here we go. If you stop on that last one, I think someone else had control. One more up if whoever's doing that. Sorry. But anyways, this shows basically from the breakdown, all these taxes that you see here, which come up to about 37.77%, that's something that the black market does not have to pay. So to level the playing field, you're talking about trying to close that gap. And that 10% represents a significant amount, in that leveling of that playing field.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. So at this time,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the next slide, as I was saying, goes to also speaking to the average by city of 7.2%. So that brings us more into line with more of an average if we were to lower it.
correct. Thank you.
Sure.
If there are no further questions or comments, then we will now open public comments for this item. I will call 3 speakers at a time. Please make your way over to the podium to line up. And City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 2. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may make a request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will first hear from speakers that are in person. Yes, and I provided you the public comment cards. And we did receive written communication that was distributed to the full council. And that was just one. Yep.
All right, may we please have Chase Crichton? Matt Jones, and Ramon Garcia. Please.
Chase Creighton, and I'm a special project union representative with the UFCW 324. I'm just going to read a little letter from our secretary treasurer. As you deliberate the issuance of a cannabis business permit, UFCW Local 324 would like to firmly advocate for Mr. Nice Guy's distinction as a compliant employer that will help the city of Bell Gardens fulfill its commitment to providing quality jobs. We have a productive working relationship with Mr. Nice Guy's dispensaries in the city of Santa Ana, where we represent the company's employees. In an emerging industry fraught with inconsistencies, UFCW can testify that Mr. Nice Guy has managed to distinguish themselves as a quality employer that complies with city rules, regulations, wherever they establish themselves. The company continues setting the bar for what a good cannabis employer is by creating numerous high-quality and high-paying jobs with a collective bargaining agreement that further enhances the quality of life in its host cities. Because of this, Mr. Nice Guy creates strong and lasting relationships fruitful to the communities they operate in. Mr. Nice Guy's operations will be an asset to the city that will reinforce Bell Gardens' retail sector as the city continues putting its best foot forward. And just as a personal statement, I was also a former cannabis worker in trying to unionize my own cannabis shop. That shop just fought it tooth and nail the whole entire time, whereas Mr. Nice Guy has worked with the union as much and easily as possible. So I just think that's something worth noting. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So Matt Jones, right?
My name is Matt Jones with Off the Charts. I noted the incorrect agenda item and would like to speak on item number 3 if that's possible.
Fine.
Thank you.
Ramon Garcia.
Buenas tardes. Sí, a favor de que
Good evening. There in Santa Ana is where we go to pick up my product, and it's a little hard for me to go there. I would like to have the services here in this city, since I realize that the services that this company gives for people who are needy, and that makes me happy to know that they can give programs and help to low-income people. So, as I said on the other occasion, I would like for this to continue, and I'm happy with this. Thank you so much.
The next 3 speakers, please. Cynthia Osorio, Carrie Camacho, and Sabrina Luna. We have Cynthia Osorio first.
Sí, buenas noches, mi nombre es Cintia Osorio.
Yes, good evening. My name is Cynthia Osorio. I'm sorry, I have my speech written here. I'm here to support and advocate for Mr. Nice Guy because I consider that it would be a great benefit, not only because of the products that he has legally. It's a company that, for me, helps the communities where they are. For example, in Santa Ana, I think that Bell Gardens would benefit because they give a lot of help. They get a lot of public benefits. They favor not only creating employment, not only giving more employment in the community, but they also focus on helping public benefits. For example, they help children. They help, excuse me, sorry, it's just that I'm translating it. I think that the city of Bell Gardens would benefit a lot, like the city of Santa Ana. They focus a lot on public benefit, as I mentioned, not only here. As I mentioned before, I'm in favor of this because I know that it's a company that focuses on giving support to the community, not just bringing employment, but they also focus a lot on the community and helping children. They do food drives. They do a lot of things that I feel like the city of Bell Gardens would benefit from also. Thank you so much.
Next is Carrie Camacho.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carrie Camacho. I am a resident here in Bell Gardens who supports having Mr. Nice Guy in our city for the reasons of being a mother who's seen cannabis help my sons from their social anxiety and other diagnoses. I also believe welcoming him, Mr. Nice Guy, to Bell Gardens will bring revenue to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Sabrina Luna.
Good evening. My name is Sabrina Luna. I've been a Bell Gardens resident for almost 10 years now. I know that having Mr. Nice Guy in our city will not only bring revenue, but it'll also make a difference for most locals, especially with it being legal. It not only means that there is actual knowledge to be given to those who use cannabis for their medical needs. After sitting through these meetings as a resident, I am no longer concerned about security. Their outreach and their example of their own of the onion layer system that I heard gave me the comfort of knowing how far their team thinks to meet safety precautions all around, not only for myself, but for other residents. Therefore, I do support having Mr. Nice Guy in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three speakers, please, Conrad Gunderson, Celia Garcia, and Brianna Cabral. Conrad Gunderson.
Hello, Commissioners. I've had the pleasure for working for Mr. Nice Guy for the past 5 years. I can confidently say that my experience in human resources with Mr. Nice Guy has been incredibly rewarding. During this time, I've witnessed countless employees grow and thrive within our organization. I could personally attest that Mr. Nice Guy's steadfast commitment to hiring locally and embracing diversity. We actively seek talent from various backgrounds, including ex-military. This approach not only strengthens our community ties, but also enriches our workforce with a diverse range of experience and skills. Mr. Nice Guy continuously strives to be a leader in the rapidly growing industry. The company's dedication to excellence and unwavering support to the community are truly commendable. By opening up a cannabis shop in Bell Gardens, you're not just supporting a business, you're fostering a community enterprise that aims to create jobs, stimulate local growth, and make a positive impact on your community. Thank you for considering this opportunity.
Thank you. Celia Garcia.
Buenas noches. Yo vengo por la misma razón que viene la
Good evening. I've come for the same reason that I came the last time. I've had tendonitis, arthritis for a long time, and really the pain is very strong. Sometimes I don't have it a lot, but sometimes I can't even stand it. So it's necessary for me to go for my chocolates, my gummies that are what help me to be okay. And Mr. Nice sells good products. They're very nice. And I'm a resident here in Bell Garden. I would like that they put a store here in this city so that it's closer and to help all of the citizens here of the city. Thank you. Brianna Cabral.
Brawl. I am not a current resident of Bell Gardens, but I live in Paramount, close enough. I worked with Mr. Nice Guy for 5 years now, and in this 5 years of working with Mr. Nice Guy, they provided job growth. They provided union jobs. They provided benefits. We do outreaches. We do toy drives. We do food drives for the kids. We do all kinds of outreach for our community. I also was part of the Bell Gardens outreach as well. We went canvassing door to door, passing out flyers, asking all the community's questions, concerns, and we did get some concerns and questions like, our kids, and we notified them that, you have to be 21 to enter the premises. You can't be under the age of 21 to even step in. So that was something that they were happy about. Another thing they were concerned about is security. We let them know that we have 24-hour security. We have 24-hour surveillance as well. So they were really happy with that. Another thing they were concerned about was consumption. We let them know that there's no consuming on the property whatsoever. It works just like a pharmacy. Everything's prepackaged, sealed, no smoking whatsoever on the property. So that was something that they were really happy to hear about. A lot of people that were against it, you know, were opening up to it, more willing for the cannabis industry. So yeah, I hope that you guys support and understand that we are about the community. We're not just about our business. We care about what everyone thinks. We try to support in a positive way, and I hope that you guys vote in our favor. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Rogelio Rodriguez.
Good evening. A second ago, a lady came up and she was complaining about the music. Well, don't worry, because we're all going to be stupid soon. None of us are going to be able to hear. The marijuana is going to be free because a city with 7 miles, sorry, 2.5 miles, and 7 marijuana stores, where are they going to send them? I live in this place. All of these people are they totally disagree with you because these people, those people who are there have never smoked. Now you're going to force them to smoke. There was another death at Ford Park. The homeless have increased here in the ciudad, in the city, and you guys are doing these private things like you did the last time. And these people come here, and it's only sick people. I mean, forgive me, but if you're sick, you go to a pharmacy or the doctor. These people don't know anything about medicine. And you're making agreements with them. Why? Because you tried it. I'm totally opposed to marijuana because it's the start for children to become potheads. It's the start. People who make the money, they don't care. They don't care one thing about it. It's when when do you see this in rich places like Beverly Hills saying, "Oh, I want the marijuana." They send it they sell it at pharmacies. They can buy it there. For me, this is really stupid that you guys are doing that and that you're doing private meetings. You took out all the people or they left. These people are all, everyone's ill. My leg hurts, this hurts, that hurts. Forget it. Everyone's going to be ill because you're going to force them to smoke marijuana.
If there is no objection by members of the city.
Mayor, I do have someone raising their hand virtually. Caller or Zoom ID Jim Fitzpatrick, if you would please select the microphone icon on your device and you may proceed with your comment for public hearing item number 2. Zoom ID Jim Fitzpatrick, you may you muted yourself successfully. You can proceed with your comment. It appears that you may be having audio issues. We're not hearing anything. Okay, Mayor, it looks like their audio is not working.
Okay, then we can move forward. If there's no objection by members of the City Council Successor Agency, I will close public participation for public hearing item number 2. And I do have some comments. I think that I am excited to see the cannabis industry coming to the city of Bell Gardens. I think it's something that is necessary for our region. I think that it is something that can be of great benefit to our residents. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form opposed to having cannabis in Bell Gardens. But what I do think is important is that we do it right for the city of Bell Gardens, right, for the residents. So that has always been my main concern. I know that there was probably some concern, from having tabled it, or people weren't clear on where I stood. I am in favor of it. I think that it is something that the genie is out of the bottle, right? It is about to be, if it hasn't been already, it's about to be removed from Schedule 1. Things are changing for the cannabis industry. And I think that if we don't do it now, I think we may come in, if we wait further, I think that we may come in at a time when it is no longer as profitable, right? And when I say profitable, I'm talking about the benefits that both the operators can see and the benefits that we can see for our residents here, right? There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot that needs to be done here in the city. And I do believe in diversifying our sources of revenue, and this is one great way to do that. I appreciate the fact that there are that there's job creation in this, right? I think it's going to be a good thing. I'm very hopeful that it will be a good thing. And with that, if there are no further council member questions or comments, I will now close the public hearing. Anybody have any questions or comments? Then I'll close the public hearing at 7:53 p.m. And actually, I would like to make a motion. And one of the things that I forgot to mention is that in doing this right, in doing cannabis right in Bell Gardens, means that we need to be competitive. We need to be competitive with the cities that are around us. We can't possibly sustain all of our, the cannabis industry alone here in Bell Gardens. It's something that we need to attract people from outside as well, outside business, outside customers. And so for that reason, I would like to make a motion. Give me one moment, please. I want to make a motion to adopt staff's recommendations, but I would like to revise the quarterly community benefits in section 4.2A of the development agreement to 7% plus the $100,000. I also move to permit staff and the city attorney to make any further clarifying changes necessary to effectuate the proposed amendment.
I'll go ahead
have
and
a second?
second that, Mayor.
City Clerk, we have a motion by myself and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Barcena. Please conduct a roll call vote.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to get a clarification point. And then maybe legal can just jump on this, or Mike. So correct me if I'm wrong, right now, I think we're taxing, or we want to tax cannabis at 10%, and you're proposing we tax them at 7%. Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, is not a tax.
Yeah,
And I'll
so-
let Deputy City Attorney.
Thank
Please
you.
clarify, thank you.
Paloma McAvoy with City Attorney's Office. First of all, Mayor Gomez, I just want to clarify that you would like to amend the quarterly public benefit rate from 10% to 7%.
Correct.
And you do not want to add another 100,000 on top of that quarterly public benefit, correct?
No, not adding another 100,000. It would be 7% plus the 100,000.
Okay, so just for the record, I think I know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
what you were doing is adding another 100,000.
No, I'm
which I
not
don't
adding
think was the
another
intent.
100,000.
So just for clarity, let the record reflect that the motion was to amend section 4.2A, quarterly community benefit fee schedule from 10% to 7%.
Correct.
And then if I may continue, Councilmember Chavez, as my colleague was stating, it's not a tax, it's a public community benefit rate that is based partially on a flat amount of $100,000 annually and a quarterly community benefit fee based on gross receipts. So yes, the mayor's motion was to reduce the amount from 10% based on gross receipts to 7% based on gross receipts.
Thank you.
I want to make clear there's an important distinction between community benefits and taxes, so.
just want to make sure that we're all clear on that.
Thank
Did
you.
like her idea about an additional 100,000, but
Look, I'm not mad at that, but we don't want to scare
You
anybody.
can still amend the motion, I think, for that extra 100,000.
Let's give it a minute. Let's give it a minute.
All right, so just again, clarification, so we're re-changing or reducing the scheduling fee from 10% or the public community benefit rate from 10% to 7%, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, now may we have a roll call vote?
Just for clarification, Mayor Pro Tem, do we still have a second from you? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez,
That'll be a no.
Councilmember Pulido,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena,
yes.
and Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mayor, if I may, can I make one quick comment? Thank you. Once again, I just want to re-echo my statements from the last meeting. Unfortunately, I can't support the CUP and the development agreement. However, I do want to make it clear that with this decision, I strongly support UFCW 324 and other involved unions as their role in ensuring fair labor practices and improving workplace conditions. Thank you again, everybody.
Okay, we will now begin with item number 3 on the agenda. At this time, I will reopen the public hearing at 7:57 p.m. City Manager, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is similar to the last. It's consideration of ordinance number 941 to authorize a development agreement by and between the City of Bell Gardens, OTC Bell Gardens LLC, and Kim Dae Ho and Hee Young relating to the property located at 5605 Gage Avenue in the City of Bell Gardens. This is the reopening of the public hearing that started at the last regular council meeting. With that, we'll turn it over to our city planner, Stephen Jones, for a presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Stephen Jones, City Planner. The item ordinance number 941 is to authorize the entering into and execution of DA 2023-067. And during this presentation, your council will hear decision and recommendation background, proposed DA scope, and planning commission findings. Thank you. To justify staff's recommendation to city council to waive full reading of the ordinance and consider authorizing the DA's execution at the close of the public hearing. And this is the applicant's presentation, but I'll continue because it's going to be short. So at the regularly scheduled city council meeting on May 13th, the council tabled the item by continuing it to today's meeting. And in terms of background, this is a proposed tenant improvement of 3,578 square feet within an existing commercial building at 5605 Gage. Thank you. And the planning commission made a recommendation after duly noticed public hearing and findings that evidence that the proposed project would comply with the city's licensing and zoning provisions. May 13th, we talked about. April 17th, we talked about. And so the entitlements conveyed with the approved CUP would extend should the council consent to adopt the ordinance authorizing the city to execute the DA. Thank you, that's good. And the basic terms are the same as that of the previous item. This ordinance would authorize the DA to provide a 10% gross receipt sales exaction community benefit rate and an annual $100,000 public benefit in exchange for a 5-year development agreement with an option to extend for another 5 years. If approved, 80% of community benefits will be dedicated to youth and educational programs and the city's housing programs. Ordinance number 941 would authorize the execution of the negotiated scope of the DA to extend the entitlement rights of the proposed cannabis retail use storefront. And during this presentation, your council heard decision and recommendation background from the previous council meeting and the duly noticed public hearing by the Planning Commission of April 17th, 2024. Staff recommends the city council waive full reading of ordinance number 941 and authorize the DA's execution at the close of the continued public hearing. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to council member questions or comments. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
And Madam Mayor, the applicant is available online as well, should you, and here, should you decide to hear from them.
Yes, if they'd like to make a statement, they're more than welcome to.
I'm live. Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Gomez, esteemed council members. My name is Sean Maddox. I'm here on behalf of Off the Charts. I'd like to thank Mr. Jones for his presentation as well as staff for the recommendation. I'd also just like to comment on this overall process and what a job I think the city's done. I think that they've made some really thoughtful considerations in the concessions that came before us today. I can see from having attended remotely last week and being here in person, how important kind of the city and the community is to the council members. So I appreciate those concessions. I appreciate the thoughts that you guys have put into this. Like Mr. Glue, I'm going to forego the presentation and just make myself available to questions for you guys, answer anything that you guys have. Again, apologies, I wasn't here last hearing. I'm happy to be here in person this time, and thanks for your time.
Any questions from anyone? No? Go ahead.
So I know one of the main concerns regarding your location is that it's a shared parking lot, right, with another business. Can you at least, and we've gone through your presentation, regulations, things that you're going to put in place, but what are two things that you can guarantee that are going to keep our community safe from, having that shared parking lot?
I think surveillance and 24/7 presence. I think those are big things. We've operated 20 retail stores in the state of California. We have very few standalone buildings. And we have great tenant relationships with our neighbors, and we've done an amazing job at instituting a good neighbor policy at all of our locations that take into account, traffic plans, lighting plans, all of these things to increase the general safety, not just for ourselves, but also for our neighbors. One of the anecdotes I like to share is our Costa Mesa location went in a little over 13 months ago. And when we first opened, it's this interesting little strip mall that sits inset.
Just a moment, please. Señoras, por favor, guarden silencio para poder escuchar al señor. Gracias.
Thank you. It sits inset to a larger complex. And when we first got in there, we spoke to the owner of the larger complex about parking and ensuring that we didn't have any impacts on him. The comment we got back was kind of a general, I think, non-comfortability with cannabis and, in general, and kind of concerns about traffic, loitering, and all of those things. We just had our 1-year anniversary last month, and we reached out to him again just about having the event and making sure that we weren't being a negative impact. And his views had completely changed in that 12-month period just by the impact that we had on the general facility through our security, through our roving guards, through making sure that our customers were being respectful and leaving on time, and through our traffic plans and all of those things. So we've done this successfully in plenty other places. We've continually increased the safety for our proximate neighbors in the surrounding community, and we believe that we'd be doing the same here.
Thank you. Also, I know that your company had agreed to the 10% of gross receipts at the last meeting, correct?
We had.
Okay. And same thing with the other company that we just spoke to. If lowering that cost, how would that benefit the consumers overall and our residents?
Well, it's a direct discount on their price, because this is the 10% is something that would be line item on an invoice. So, if somebody was buying $100 purchase, the lowering would save them $3 per purchase. We work hard to make cannabis affordable to our customers. We have some of the best pricing in the industry. We also have compassion events, but at the end of the day, taxes have a huge impact on how we can operate and service the community. And as was thoughtfully mentioned earlier, the black market is a very real threat to this industry, and it's a public health threat as well. It's not just a price threat, it is a public health threat. Cannabis is in this community. It is being sold. It is being sold by illicit operators who have no care about what goes into the product. Not every legal cannabis does care about what goes into the product, but we have to be compliant, and that's something that goes through the rigorous requirements of the DCC, through testing laboratories and all of those things to make sure that every certificate of analysis is compliant. If there's ever an issue, we have recalls. We've gone through recalls. We have rigorous standard operating procedures that we adhere by. So at the end of the day, I think that lowering taxes and making us more competitive to the black market is an overall benefit to the community.
And I know that you have multiple stores, so what's the average that you're paying within any one city currently?
I think 7 is close to the average. It's probably at least the median. We see as low as 5%. We've seen as high as 10%. But I think, 7's pretty much the median or the middle number.
I have no further questions.
In terms of the quality of the product, as you said, black market cannabis carries a lot of danger with it. We all know about fentanyl, things being laced with fentanyl, but beyond that, I think that what people may not realize is that you also have cannabis that is moldy because it's been sitting around for a long time and you're going to inhale that into your lungs. You don't know where that's been, produced, how that's been stored. So I think it's important that we have a regulated market to ensure that people are consuming a good quality product, right? Something that isn't going to make them sicker, than they already are coming in for, correct?
Yeah, 100% correct. And I think the mold thing is an interesting one because typically any cannabis flower has a 1-year shelf life. Beyond that, you have mold and pesticide testing. Pesticide is a very big one. This is a agricultural product that does require very sensitive growing techniques. So at the end of the day, this has to go through a lab and be approved. And one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot anymore because it was kind of a blip on the radar is the vape crisis and vape cartridges and the oils that go into illicit vape cartridges. That's the stuff that was causing all of these lung problems for people. And that I think it's like a glycol that they add there. I'm not a chemist. But that is something that is specifically tested for within vape cartridges that enter into the legal market. So you do have that protection for consumers.
Thank you. Any other comments from our council? None? Okay, so we will now open public comments for this item. I will call 3 speakers at a time. Please make your way over to the podium to line up. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 3. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. And when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may make a request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature and unmute the microphone icon when instructed. We will first hear from speakers that are in person.
And at this time, I'd like to call Matt Jones, Sierra Rain, and William Hunsdorfer.
Good evening, council. My name is Matthew Jones, and I'm a licensed realtor that has been working with Off the Charts for the last 5+ years. I've seen firsthand how much the owners Norman and Darlene truly care about their communities where they operate, and their rapid expansion throughout Southern California is a testament to how they're able to establish long-lasting relationships with neighbors, the community members, and city officials. I was intimately involved in the process of helping to obtain control of the property at 5605 East Gage Avenue. Both the property owners and market operators have been enthusiastic and helpful in getting us to this point. Everyone that I've spoken to in the surrounding neighborhood feels that a business like ours and the security that we provide can only help to bring safety to the community. Off the Charts also implements comprehensive nuisance mitigation policies, protocols, and design features to ensure that our neighbors and the surrounding community do not experience any adverse impacts because of our operations. We understand the sensitive nature and need for discretion for greater community with respect to commercial cannabis businesses, and we intend to build connections in the community and facilitate an open dialogue with residents surrounding our operations within Bell Gardens. We strive to integrate our store into the community versus having the community adapt to our store's presence. Community safety and accountability are prioritized over profits, and our team is committed to consistently maintaining these values throughout all operations. To that end, Off the Charts will appoint a community relations officer that is available by phone, email, or in person, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for citizens and neighbors to voice their concerns regarding our operations. Their contact information will be provided to all neighbors within 500 feet of the facility, in addition to being accessible on our website. I'm in the process of organizing an open house at the facility where neighbors and other community members can come out to visit the building, ask us questions, voice their concerns, and get any other information that they're looking for to keep their minds at ease, knowing that Off the Charts will run a compliant, nuisance-free operation. Community assimilation allows us to be both accessible and proactive in addressing any hints of complaints or dissatisfaction with the way operations are being conducted. I am proud to be a part of this effort and implore the council to see how Off the Charts can be a massive value add to the Bell Gardens business community. Thank you.
Thank you. Sierra Rain?
Hello and good evening, council members and mayor. Thank you for having me and the time to speak. My name is Sierra Rain and I'm a regional manager for Off the Charts. I've been working with OTC for 4 years and in the cannabis industry for 8, yes, before it went legal. I spoke at council meetings to help activate it in San Diego and happy to be here today to help it grow. As a regional manager at OTC, I am responsible for providing leadership throughout all day-to-day operations across multiple stores. I make sure all employees are trained on and are following OTC's standard operating procedures to achieve a safe, compliant, and welcoming environment for our employees and customers while meeting and exceeding our sales goals and higher customer service ratings. I'm proud to say our store boasts a 5.0 rating for Google, 4.9 on Weed Maps, and have not had any compliance violations on any of our 23 locations in both California and New Mexico. OTC has created an amazing company culture that really allows my entire staff and I to thrive. Between generous compensation packages, excellent benefits that range from health, dental insurance, and employee assistance programs, and everything in between, opportunities for advancement and ongoing training and education, I feel that OTC gives us all of the tools to succeed. There is an environment of trust and transparency, and I feel like our staff really operates like a family. This is also imparted onto our customers, whether it is their first time in our store or they have been regularly shopping at OTC since its opening. Our customers know that they can feel at home almost anywhere in the state when they stop by an Off the Chart storefront. OTC also does everything they can to keep our staff, our customers, and the general community safe and secure. At OTC, every employee is a part of our security program, and employees go through comprehensive training regarding product handling, burglary and robbery protocols, security measures required by our state and local governments, and various other hazards of the commercial cannabis industry. This training also allows staff to recognize impaired customers and customers who may be abusing cannabis and or other substances and prevent them from accessing cannabis, which could harm them more. When we train security guards and all staff to carefully monitor customers to identify behavior that suggests intoxication and or impairment. Employees are trained in de-escalation strategies if customers become agitated, and we take all measures to make sure patrons do not enter their vehicles under the influence of any substance. To mitigate potential substance abuse or possible diversion, staff are trained to carefully monitor dispensing limits, and we suggest low THC products and methods for reducing cannabis tolerance levels. We also team with local law enforcement to provide brochures on cannabis safety and the importance of DUI, including cannabis. And I've actually worked hand in hand with multiple council members across LA in shutting down illegal dispensaries once I've identified them to stop the black market product. As leaders in secure cannabis practices, OTC works closely. Thank you for your guys' time.
Thank you. William Hunsdorfer?
Hi, thank you for your time today. My name is William Hunsdorfer. I am a cannabis specialist at Off the Charts location in USC area. I have been in the cannabis industry for 7 years and been working for Off the Charts for 2. As a cannabis specialist, I am on the front line of Off the Charts retail experience, serving the needs and customers by processing transactions, assisting customers in product decisions that align with the benefits that they are looking for, not for what we are trying to sell them, as well as providing product information, dosage recommendations, and information on administration. I truly enjoy coming to work every day. It's been a blessing to work in an industry that doesn't feel like work. I truly enjoy everything I do every day, and it's a big part of because of the people I work with and the customers I get to serve. Off the Charts is family-run, family-owned business, and I think it is close-knit, trusting business model that really shows up in the people that I get to work with at our store. The majority of our employees are from the USC area, such as 3 of them actually, that grew up in that specific area, one even right up the street. He's in a close-knit community, and it's a great thing to see. Our customers know that we are focused on serving them and the community We back this up beyond providing premium customer service experience by actually getting out into the community and volunteering our time and energy into important causes. OTC wants to ensure that we are contributing members of the society both within the establishment and beyond. The enrichment I get from these opportunities to build relationships in the community is one of many benefits I've experienced from working at Off the Charts. Another major benefit of working at Off the Charts is participating in their employee staff training, such as she has referred to beforehand. It is very strenuous and ensures that before we even get to hit the floor or anything, we endure a 5-day paid staff training to make sure we are upholding all of our cannabis regulations. This kind of commitment to the employee education not only it means that we as employees have a workplace environment that is enriching and provides ample room for growth, but it has allowed us to be better resourced for customer education in our community. At Off the Charts, we bring value to the community by providing free, quality education materials, workshops, seminars, and other events to those who are interested in using cannabis as a means of personal wellness. These create community and family feel that we pride ourselves and I am proud to be a part of. I would like to thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments?
I do not see anyone virtually raising their hands, and we didn't receive any more public comment cards.
Okay, if there's no objection by the members of the City Council Successor Agency, I will close public participation for hearing item number 3. If there are no further council member questions or comments, I will now close the public hearing at 8:18 p.m. And now we will move on to the motion. Again, I want to make a motion to adopt the staff's recommendation, but would like to revise the quarterly community benefits in section 4.2A of the development agreement to 7%. I also move to permit staff and the city attorney to make any further clarifying changes necessary to effectuate the proposed amendment. May I have a second?
I'll go ahead and second that.
We have a motion by myself and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Barcena. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez,
No.
Councilmember Pulido,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena,
Yes.
and Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, at this time, we are going to take a 10-minute break and we will return at 8:30. Oh my God. No. No, I didn't order anything because I thought I was gonna have time to go pick something else up. Are we ready to resume?
Meeting is now being in session. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Public participation is now open. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, subject to an overall 30-minute period unless announced otherwise. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may make a request by using the raise hand feature on and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will first hear from speakers that are in person.
Okay, and Maria Morales? I think she's the lady that left, right? Okay. Is Chief gonna check to see if she's there?
And for the record, we didn't receive any written comments.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I just want to make a note about Maria Morales, in case she did leave her phone number. If we can give her a call back, she had a complaint about a empty lot where there's been some suspicious activity, and maybe the chief is already partially aware, and perhaps also our community development director. So Maria Morales, if you guys aren't able to find the phone number, please contact me. I have her contact info.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Next up, Rogelio Rodriguez.
Good evening. I'm going to make a comment, but the comment that I'm going to make is nothing related to discrimination. I know that sooner or later you're going to mention it. Our city is like Downey. Last year they put the flag at City Hall. This time they took it away. The reason possibly is because what you guys are doing is you're dividing the city in two. Because when you start to push, it's like an illness. If you have a fever, you go near them and you get a fever and you die. Instead of sending the money on flags and stuff, why don't you invest it in a fund to help parents who to know whether their child is homosexual or not? I'm not against it. I have lots of friends and maybe even family members that are homosexuals, but why do we have to make ourselves poorer than we are? Everyone is what they are, but when you do this publicly, you're using funds, our funds. That's what you're doing. There are some people who want to take away the words that say, God we trust. You're doing something, you're going to make our community ill, and our community is fine. I don't have any problem with that because I don't want to discriminate against someone like that, but why do we have to go out and point them out? If you are, that's their thing. It's not our thing. I'm not opposed. You can do what you want with the money, but you're spending the money from our taxes. You can use it for something positive so that you can help that person. But what are you doing? What are the comments? What are these comments help for? Do something positive. Do something that shows the people, look, if you guys started the comment talking about homosexuals, I didn't. And I'm not against anywhere. Maybe I have family members, possibly. Maybe I have friends. Yes, I know I have friends. but that's their life. I would like to recommend you to do something about the parking here in Bell Gardens. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
We do not have any virtual comments.
If there is no objection by members of the City Council Successor Agency, I will close public participation for non-agenda items. Public participation is now open for items listed on the City Council Successor Agency Joint Agenda. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals may make a request on Zoom by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chamber, and we did receive 2 in support of item number 14 written comments that were distributed.
Okay, so at this time, I would like to call Stephanie Tapia Onate.
Good evening, council members. My name is Stephanie Tapia Onate, and I'm here today with Alliance for a Better Community. We are a Latina advocacy organization in Los Angeles and encompassing all of LA County. We're also part of the Digital Equity LA Coalition, which includes more than 70 partners across the state that are working to close the digital divide. And I'm here today in support of item number 14, introduced by Councilmember Chavez. We appreciate his leadership and attention to this critical issue. This resolution acknowledges the crucial role of broadband internet access for full participation in modern society and the digital discrimination that occurs when internet service providers inequitably deploy high-speed internet and disproportionately limit services to racially or socio-economically marginalized neighborhoods. Our addresses should not be our digital destiny. In a case study, it was found that households less than 1 mile apart in the Cela region had a $30 per month difference in advertised rates for the same internet service. Research consistently shows that the main reason households do not have internet is its high cost. Digital discrimination exacerbates internet affordability, worsening the digital divide in Bell Gardens. As an advocate for the Cela region, I urge you to help close the digital divide by supporting and adopting the resolution denouncing digital discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments online?
Yes, I have one. Zoom ID, Mary Paz, if you would please select the microphone icon to unmute yourself. And you may proceed with your comment.
Sí, buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Buenas
Yes,
noches.
good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Maripaz Padilla. I'm a resident here in Bell Gardens. Good evening. Good evening to the council members and the people present in the room. I'm here tonight to support number 14. As a member of this community, it's very important the fact that in my city, you, the council members, recognize the importance of access to the internet. Now that that service is very important in the society, now that it allows us to be present in many different venues, just like we are in this meeting here. I can be present in this way. It's also very important in education. After the pandemic, a lot of people take their classes on the internet. A lot of us take our classes on internet. And the communication, family communication is very important for those of us who are far away. Some of us can only contact each other on a Zoom call. And it's very frustrating when We only have that way to communicate, to be able to hear words from those who are far from us. I also recognize that you allow us to show our experience. That's sometimes frustrating with that service because there's digital discrimination that's very present in our communities, which are more vulnerable, like the area of Sela here in the East LA. Since the service providers of internet, they give their service in an unequal way, because those of us who are low income, they charge us the same amount for the cost of service, but the service is lesser compared to communities with a higher income. It's very important that you denounce this problem and that you declare digital access for all. I ask that you denounce digital discrimination, and thank you so much for always being aware of these problems that affect our community and for always supporting us. Thank you and good evening.
Zoom ID Emma Hernandez, if you would please select the microphone icon, you may proceed with your comment.
Hello, my name is Emma Hernandez, and I'm CEO of the Southeast Community Development Corporation, a nonprofit that services residents of Bell Gardens. And I want to thank Councilmember Chavez for introducing this motion. We are also part of the Digital Equity LA Coalition and really working towards digital equity in our region. Our organization has helped folks get connected to low-cost internet. And we know firsthand what it means to see that discrimination, where our residents are not able to get adequate internet that's at an appropriate speed that supports all the different things that need to happen in the home, such as accessing education and making purchases and speaking to doctors and teachers and so forth. And we've seen it where, we help folks get connected and the prices are too high. They get told that they should get the low cost internet, which sometimes is inadequate for what families need. So I very much support item 14 because it addresses the topic of digital discrimination in Bell Gardens, and it'll help with getting affordable high-speed internet to our residents. And so this would be helpful in the region that brings as more and more of the cities come together to make these kind of motions throughout the city. I think we're going to be able to show that we as a region are requesting and demanding digital equity for our residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was the last comment.
Thank you. If there is no objection by the members, I will close public participation. City Manager, will you please give your report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to mention, it's been 4 weeks since the previous council meeting, so a lot has gone on. The end of May was a busy month. As normally, we held our 2 rent stabilization workshops in the month of May. On May 22nd, we had a groundbreaking ceremony, long-awaited groundbreaking ceremony for the Aquatic Center at Ford Park. And proud to announce, if you saw our social media, if you happen to drive by Ford Park, you see that the ground is completely broken. There's really just rubble at this point, with the buildings basically torn down and the walls torn down. So significant progress has been made since that May 22nd groundbreaking ceremony. Also want to mention, on May 23rd, we had the mother-daughter golf clinic at the Bell Gardens golf course. This year we tried something different for Memorial Day, and we held a joint event with the American Legion and with the City of Commerce up at the cemetery, and then with a follow-up event at the American Legion Hall. So that seemed to work well, kind of combine both forces there and try to maximize participation. Also, this Saturday, we had our annual curbside cleanup. We had swim lessons that were started, And just a note on swim lessons, even though the aquatic center has been closed for about 7 or 8 years, the city over at least the last 5 years still maintains, hires lifeguards, and still uses swimming pool in Montebello in agreement with the city there at the Chet Holyfield Park for swim lessons. So signups are still ongoing now. If you just go to our calendar, go to our app, click on June 8th, and you'll see it there as one easy way to find. Also wanted to mention we held another one of our financial literacy workshops this Saturday. This was what on building and maintaining your credit. Going forward, just want to make a note this Saturday and Sunday is our yard sale weekend. So people don't need a permit or anything like that. They can put their stuff out for yard sale. We have our rent stabilization workshops are to be held next week here at City Hall. And I think exciting for everybody, residents, staff, council members, our summer concerts and movies are starting on June 20th, Thursday, June 20th, with a concert, and those go through August 8th. So those will be Thursdays at 6 or 7 p.m., alternating back and forth between concerts and movies. So that's an exciting time. And just want to mention two other nearly accomplished items, Asmus Park and Hannon Park. We received grant funding a couple years ago to replace the playground equipment there, to redo the pour in place and the rubberized coating on the grounds. So Asmus Park is completed, has been inspected, just need to take down fences and things of that nature. Hannon Park should be ready by this weekend as well. The one key piece that we don't have completed yet is the artwork that the council recently approved and authorized a contract with to do mural and artwork at Asmus and Hannon Park. As soon as those are done, we'll hold a final opening ceremony, but we won't withhold the playground equipment from starting to be used as kids are out of school. And with that, just would like to thank staff, residents, council, for all the support and help and attendance at all of these events that we have had over the last 4 weeks. All of the physical work that's been done at the Asmus, Hannon, Ford Park, and also for just the maintenance work that goes on to keep things running smoothly. Everybody's very busy with everything, and I think things are running very well due to all the effort that's put in by all the stakeholders at the city. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent calendar. Does any member of the council successor agency wish to pull an item for separate discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will now call for a motion to approve items number 4 through 18 of the consent calendar. May I have a motion?
Move.
I have a second. Second, we have a motion by Councilmember Chavez and a second by Councilmember Sanchez Leon. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council successor agency Chavez,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulido,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena,
Yes.
and Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, if I can make a quick comment.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I just want to express my gratitude to this council and then also to the amazing organization, ABC, Alliance for Better Community, for all the work that y'all have done. I know that our city, along with other Southeast cities, I think Maywood, Huntington Park, Bell, Cudahy, Southgate, have also taken the initiative to pass this digital discriminatory resolution, denouncing digital discrimination. So I'm looking forward to seeing the partnerships we continually build with our Southeast cities. During the pandemic, we saw this issue exacerbate throughout the communities of Southeast for the lack of the digital divide that we have. When kids were having to join through Zoom, but not having adequate access through laptops or hotspots at home. So it just goes to show that it's things like this, resolutions like this, that continually push the narrative for communities like ours. And I'm just again grateful also to Emma Hernandez from SEDC, Southeast Community Development Corporation, for calling in. And at the end of the day, it's things like this where we can support. So thank you so much, ABC, and thank you for all the work that you all do. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And now, City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 19?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is the regular item we have on the agenda for local commissions appointment list. The staff recommendation of the council review the list and by motion remove commissioners and or make appointments to posted vacancies. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Does any member of the council have any changes? Okay, so seeing none, we will move forward. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 20?
Thanks again, Mayor Gomez. Yes, this item is resolutions calling for the November 5th general and special municipal elections, requesting consolidation of services with LA County and adopting regulations for candidate statements. Before I turn it over to our city clerk, Daisy Gomez, just remind the council again, this is a special election, obviously for the nation. It's a presidential election, but specifically for Bell Gardens as our two general seats up, and we have a special election as well this November. With that, I'll turn it over to Daisy for a presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. Tonight, we're really going to discuss, usually this is a consent calendar item, but because there's something new to present to the council, we want to make sure that the council's reviewing the information thoroughly. So as the city manager stated, the city is upcoming election is held on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024 this year. And the items that will be on the ballot for the city of Bell Gardens is 2 regular election council seats, and they're at large. And those are regular in that they're going to be serving a 4-year term. And then the 1 special election city council seat at large is to serve a 2-year term to fulfill the remaining of the vacancy from the appointment. And then just for a recap on our election process, I thought it was probably worth noting the election dates, aligning it with the process. So on June 27th, I am required to notice the election, and we do that by also translation. And we do that by making sure that it's part of the educated newspaper, and then also sent out, posted on all our kiosks or posting boards. And then we have our July 15th will be the first day when nomination period begins. So that means that candidates to come into my office and pick up the nomination documents. And the last day for them to file will be August 8th. And then I did note here that our normal business hours, Monday through Thursday, as City Hall is closed on Friday, between 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on August 9th through August 18th is when the public has an opportunity to review the candidate statements that have been filed. August 15th is the random alpha drawing, and this is important because this is how the candidate names will be listed on the ballot. The Secretary of State will provide that order of candidate names on the ballot or the alpha drawing, and then I will put the candidate names in order. And then on December 5 is the election results, when the county will provide those certified results to me, and then I will present it to the council at the first meeting of December, which is December 9th, which will also be when the city council will have an opportunity to reorganize. So this is where the newly elected council members will have their oath of office administered. And then the election, the county really is the one who is coordinating, conducting the general and special election in consolidation with their presidential for the city of Bell Gardens, as they do for many cities. And the county does print voter pamphlets and our ballots and all pertinent election materials. They arrange the voting centers, and they provide the certified election results. And one of those things that we're used to already them doing is printing our candidate statements into the voter information guide. One of the new things that the county has extended to the cities this election is to post the county's new website information for the candidate statements. So not only can you have it printed on the voter information guide, but you could also have it available on their website. And so I provided the link there so that you can see what the statements look like. They actually have one currently posted for the March 7th, 2024 election. So if you wanted to look at that, you're welcome to. Now, this is an option. It would be an additional fee. For March 7th, they charged, I think, 200 and something dollars, or 280, I believe, approximately. And so we don't know what the cost will be this time around, but it is an option. So the candidates could either decide not to have anything printed or posted on the website and not pay anything, or they can have either one of those two options, or they can also have both of those options. So they can opt to have it printed on the voter information guide and also posted on the website, but each at cost. And again, those estimates haven't been provided to me as of yet, but I am expecting that. And as soon as I receive that, that'll be something that'll be provided to candidates at the time of filing or prior to even picking up their nomination packet. So the recommendation is for the council to call the general and special election. And those are the resolutions attached so that it could be held on November 5th, 2024. Requesting for the consolidation with the county through the Board of Supervisors, and then adopting the regulations for the candidate statements. And again, this does include the new optional online candidate statement. And with that, if the council has any questions, I'm here to help answer.
Any questions from anyone? No. Okay, seeing none. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions 1 through 5 as listed on the agenda?
I'll move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Barson and a second by Councilwoman Sanchez de Leon. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council and successor agency, Chavez,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulido,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Barcena, and Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and moving on, City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 21?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is to request permission and approve an excused temporary medical related leave of absence for Bell Garden City Council Member Maria Polito. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. City Clerk's available and legal counsel as well. Thank you, Mayor. And the dates would be from June 11th, tomorrow, through July 31st. Just, I guess, to make note, the scheduled council meetings are June 24th. And also the second meeting in July would fall within this period here. So they're two regularly scheduled meetings. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the leave of absence of Bell Garden City Council Member Maria Pulido?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. And so we have a motion by Councilwoman Sanchez de Leon and a second by me. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council and successor agency, Chavez,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulido,
I will abstain.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena, and Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving along, City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 22?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is for the adoption of the fiscal year 24-25 operating and capital improvement budget, compensation plan, and establishing legally required appropriations limits. At the last council meeting, we went over the budget that was being presented by staff. It's taken a couple months to put it together. It takes into consideration all of the direction, recent direction, and multi-year direction from the city council. We have our Manuel Carrillo as our Director of Administrative Financial Services. We'll go through the presentation, and I'll stop him at a couple times here or there throughout the presentation just to add some detail. to some of the items there. And thank you, Mayor, and go ahead, Manuel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. This evening, we will be providing an overview of the city's 24-25 operating capital improvement budget, as well as the GAN appropriation limit pursuant to Article 13B of the State of California's Constitution establishing municipal spending limits in any given fiscal year. The current 23-24 budget has a projected year-end surplus of $166,000. The upcoming fiscal year 24-25 budget is projected to have a surplus of $72,000. Factored into the proposed 24-25 budget is year 2 of a 3-year approved labor agreement, salary increases with city personnel. And of course, the water fund continues to run deficits while a treatment system is designed and funding sources are being identified. Here we have an overview of the current 23-24 general fund projections. For 23-24, revenues were adopted at $42.4 million, with expenditures at $41.7 million, with an adopted surplus of $735,000. At mid-year, revenues were projected to increase to $44.2 million, along with expenditures increasing to $44 million, resulting in a projected surplus of $187,000. Furthermore, we project the final general fund surplus to come in at about $166,000. As part of its year-end closeout process, finance staff will closely monitor revenues and expenditures during this last month of the fiscal year, assuring for accuracy in reporting and recording of any outstanding receivables and payables. This next slide provides an overview of the projected fund balance at the end of the current 23-24 fiscal year. The fund balance at the end of fiscal year 22-23 was identified at $32,268,000. This is verified as part of our annual comprehensive financial report, financial statements process through our annual audit. The projected surplus or change in fund balance at the end of the current 23-24 year in the amount of $166,000 will result in a projected fund balance of $32,433,500 at 6/30/24.
And Manuel, if you leave this slide here, just as a reminder for the council looking ahead over the next 12 to 24 months as we wrap up the aquatic center project that's in progress. It's a $31 million project. We currently have about $16 million of funding, which would leave about $15 million to be paid from other revenue sources or from the general fund balance. So Manuel and I have been looking at some of the financing options to look at what that means. But if the city were just to cut a check for the remaining $15 million, it would obviously come from fund, well, maybe not obviously, it would come from the fund balance here, which would reduce that dollar amount. But before it feels like, wow, that's a big draw on the general fund balance there. I believe in 2019, that projected fund balance was around $17 to $18 million. So it's almost double what it was. Part of that knowledge as we've been growing that general fund over the last few years is that we have this big aquatic center project coming forth. So you would expect to see this come down in about 18 months or so.
Quick question, Mike, and maybe Manuel can answer this. Is this the fund balance? Is that essentially like our reserves?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we have about 26 million in reserves.
Yes, it's actually 32. The reason we show non-spendable is the water fund owes the city somewhere in the tune of $7 or $8 million. There's a few ways to turn that into actual liquid cash. You couldn't pay bills with it currently, but it's essentially also part of the fund balance as well, that $6 million. So the real fund balance is 32.4 million. We just call out the fact that about 6 million of it isn't in cash. It's money that's due to the general fund balance. But yes, those are our reserves there.
So if we were to maybe next year use, for the completion of the pool, I just did some quick math. I mean, I think we can certainly pay off the 15 million that we don't have fully for the pool, and we still have like a leftover of about 11 million or so that we have discretion over.
Yes, that's right, Councilmember. And just to, there's all kinds of arguments. If we just pick a source, which would be a Government Finance Officer Association, they recommend, generally speaking, a government agency, and it can depend on circumstances, but have somewhere in the 20 to 30% of their general fund expenditures in reserve. So 20-30% of our general fund would roughly be around the $10 million range. We probably would argue that a city such as Bell Gardens with one single source of revenue that's very prominent, such as the bicycle, that we would want to have more than that, but that would be the kind of the limit of what would be considered reasonable to have at least 10 or $11 million in fund balance. And just to clarify as well, we're still seeking other funding sources for that $15 million. And it may make sense to finance some or all of that as well. So we're running the numbers currently. We'll be back to the council here in the next few months with some options as well. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to our next slide, we have I'm sorry, just my notes here. Okay, as previously mentioned, fiscal year 24-25 revenues are projected at 46,236,251, with expenditures projected at 46,163,848, resulting in a projected surplus of 72,000. This slide provides a pie chart breakdown of the general fund revenue sources by percentage. So as you can see, obviously the Bicycle Club Casino being the largest single source of revenue for the city, along with motor vehicle and lieu, property leases, as well as sales and use tax as well. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay. The next slide provides a summary overview of the general fund revenue sources by category for fiscal year 24-25 and a side-by-side comparison of the previous 23-24 adopted revenues. As we can see, we are projecting increases in mostly all categories, most noticeably bicycle casino revenue, taxes based on recent historical performances, also increases to sales and use tax along with Measure A add-on. These figures are based on HDO calculations, which are tracked and monitored throughout the year, as well as reported quarterly to city's finance staff.
And Manuel, if you just
Yes.
hold on that for a moment, just, if you look at the bottom line numbers there, it's a pretty significant increase in total revenues. Half of the increase is attributable to Bicycle Casino. So they haven't been fully operational over a lot of the last 12 to 24 months due to improvements being made within the actual physical building there. So they haven't had all their table space open. As you kind of roll through about halfway down, there's rental registry fees. So this is the first year that we're budgeting rental registry fees as part of our budget. So that shows a $650,000 increase. And then just kind of interest, about 2/3, 3/4 of the way down is interest income from $375,000 to $600,000. So when you hear the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates, so mortgages are high, things of that nature, it also means that local governments, such as the city of Bell Gardens, counties that have money, our fund balance doesn't just sit there in cash. It's in the local agency investment fund that's run by the state treasurer and actually earns an interest rate. So what was previously we're earning maybe 1 or 2% is up to closer to the 4% range. That's through the Federal Reserve raising it. So that's an interest income amount that will go up and down over the years, but we're happy in years that it happens to be higher than it was previously. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. So the next slide provides a visual breakdown by percentage of the top city revenue sources. The top 7 revenue sources equal approximately 85% of total city general revenue. Here we have a graph that tracks the casino revenue performance in recent history. In fiscal year 22-23, an all-time high of $18,985,140 was received. For the current 23-24, $17,952,000 was adopted. For the upcoming 24-25, we are projecting revenues of $19,836,000 based on recent strong performances. This slide provides a breakdown of the general fund expenditures by category, providing a side-by-side comparison of the adopted 23-24 expenditures and the proposed 24-25 figures. The most noticeable increases are in the categories of personnel services, contractual services, and capital outlays. Personnel and contractual services make up approximately 88% of the city's general fund expenditure budget. Oh, of course, sorry. Of course, sorry.
Your mic, Mike.
Thank you. Sorry. The personnel services amount, you'll see it's obviously like most government agencies is the largest expenditure. That's salaries and benefits. So that's hourly pay, overtime, CalPERS costs, medical expenditures, things of that nature. Those items come to the council through the MOU agreements, labor agreements. Contractual services, those are the items that you see come to the council every council meeting. If you go through the agenda, there's anywhere from 1 to 5 items for contractual services. Everything from tree trimming to photocopiers to legal services to third-party trash services, things of that nature. Departmental supplies, those are desks, chairs, paper, things of that nature. And then capital outlay this year, you'll see there's an increase there. All of these items, I guess the point that I would like to make is all of these items throughout the fiscal year come before the council. Some of them are multi-year. So some of our contracts, most of our contracts are 3 to 5 year contracts. Pretty flat rates for the most part with some increases. And then once you've been on the council a while, you'll see them kind of roll through. Same thing with our personnel services. We happen to be in the middle of 3-year MOU agreements with our bargaining units. So we had pay increases and then CalPERS increases and that things of that nature. So this is pretty much in line with what you will see with most other government agencies where personnel services, contractual services make up a significant portion of the general fund budget. Thanks, Manuel.
Thank you. This slide provides a breakdown of expenditures under the personnel category. The most noticeable increases are, of course, the salaries, which are, of course, directly impacted by the scheduled 4% increase in fiscal year 24-25 as part of a 3-year MOU agreement. Other categories with noticeable increases are CalPERS retirement expenses, increases to health insurance, along with increases to part-time and overtime expenditures.
Manuel, if you leave it, sorry, I'm
Yes,
just
of
jumping
course.
ahead before you moved here. So just to kind of talk back with the council, so you know or have a little more details of what goes on behind the scenes when we're putting this budget together, recommend to council. If you look at the salaries amount, you can mostly attribute that to a 4% pay increase that was included within the MOUs that were approved by the council. So if you take 4% times 12.9 million, you get about $500-some thousand, and you'll see the increase is 622. So there are other adjustments in there as people also got step increases and things of that nature. But if you look at CalPERS retirement, this is something that you'll see as you go to different trainings, as you talk to other government agencies. The CalPERS costs, if you look at almost up as much as our salaries, yet on a much smaller base. You know, there's only $6 million worth of CalPERS costs, and they went up almost $500,000. Salaries were almost 13 million, and they only went up a little bit over $500,000. Those are legal obligations that the city is required to pay for employer contributions. One interesting note is, so you ask yourself, how do you get ahead of that to help bring down the cost? As new employees come on, new employees do have a lower employer contribution rate due to pension benefit reform that occurred in 2013. And then other labor negotiated items. So I think in previous years, that number could have been as much as $700,000-800,000 more per year, but it's still a significant challenge in that nobody feels that from a take-home perspective. Nobody stays at the city of Bell Gardens and doesn't go to another city because they got more money towards CalPERS. So that's one of the more frustrating budget items that's very fixed. That there's not a lot of opportunity there to help to bring that number down. So it's one that we monitor closely. And then I just mentioned on the part-time amount, you'll see that went from 1.8 million to 2.3. So that's a more realistic budget as we've added a significant number of events, as we've gotten a lot of the programs up at the parks up and running again. I think at a higher level that we've been running them even prior to COVID. And also with the expectation that we have of the Public Works Group as well, as far as responding to graffiti and just maintaining the park facilities and all other city facilities. So we budgeted this at a more realistic expenditure level based on the service level being increased what it had been in the past. And those would be things that you just notice that the bathrooms are open, there's soap in the bathrooms, trash is being picked up quicker, things of that nature. So thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Our next slide, this slide provides an overview of the full-time positions by department. In fiscal year 24-25, there will be 158 full-time positions within the city. This slide provides an overview of proposed salary adjustments and reclassifications for fiscal year 24-25. There are two positions that there will be either reclassification or a salary adjustment. The first being in the Community Development Division, the Housing Program Supervisor will change in title to Housing Program Manager. And again, it's a reclassification only with no fiscal impact. The other position also within the community development area is formerly a code enforcement building inspector, which will now become a combination building inspector 1-2, which is a reclassification and a salary adjustment. And of course, the hiring point is dependent, of course, on the person's experience. But this proposed adjustment potentially could have an impact of about $5,000 in the 24-25 year, depending on the ability to fill the position and the starting rate that they would begin at.
And just to add some clarity to this slide here. So the first one's a housing program supervisor. This was approved by the council when we used the rental registry revenues to create 3 or 4 positions in the housing section of community development. The title we have was housing program supervisor. The deputy city manager, community development director has asked to change the title, but not the salary, to housing program manager, just to help to recruit and retain what's currently a vacant position. There's not somebody in that position already. Same thing is true with this code enforcement position as well. This is a position we do recruitments, we make an offer, someone accepts a position and then leaves a month or 2 later, or they leave before they've even actually set foot in the office. So we're trying to give ourselves a little more room here to be able to hire at a higher level of experience necessary. This is a position that had already been approved by the council, and it's currently vacant. This is the one thing that has changed since the last presentation to the council 4 weeks ago. We had what represented approximately 13 other positions, recommended reclassifications, but we realized with 150 some employees, we were looking at almost 10% of the actual physical positions that existed. And so the recommendation from staff was to set those initial requests aside, and what we replaced with in the budget at a lower cost, but we think is better long-term, is $50,000 included in this budget to do another citywide compensation classification study. There was one done in 2018, 2019. Basically looks at every position in the city, looks to see how does it pay compared to other cities. Does the job description match the job title and the existing job description? What was discovered back in the 2018, 2019 was that the city, generally speaking, was paying fair and at the higher end when you factored in all of salaries and benefits. We think this will be helpful as we come into labor negotiations in the next year and a half or so, helpful for the union groups as well as the council and management staff in determining, if there are any changes that need to be made. So instead of just looking at what would have been about 10% of the positions, we thought it made sense to pull back on that and request the 50,000 within this budget to just do a compensation classification study. We put out the RFP, come back to the council with a recommendation for a contract, have the work done, probably about 3 months worth of work, and then come back to the council with the results. This would all be transparent. The labor groups can see it. And if there were any major adjustments that would need to be made, we would make those recommendations to the council at that time. So this slide is really the biggest change from the presentation from 4 weeks ago. And that was based on just interactions with employee groups and things of that nature. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. The next slide, this provides a brief overview of some of the increases in the contractual services category. So I'm just going to go down the list briefly here. PD contractual services are up by approximately 45,000, mainly due to vehicle maintenance and fuel costs and warranties. Public Works admin contractuals are up by about 225 due to the increases in industrial waste permits, engineering services, and crossing guard services as well. Public Works parks and facilities are up by about 400,000, primarily due to increased projected costs of facility maintenance and repairs, equipment rentals, plumbing and janitorial services. The city clerk's contractual services are up by about 100,000 due to the election costs, which of course will take place in 24-25. Under the community development contractual personnel help of about 60,000, specifically to assist in the economic development area. And of course, finally, as mentioned by the city manager, under the finance and admin division, personnel classification study to be completed in 24-25 at approximately $50,000. The next area is, of course, the departmental supplies. Now, this provides a brief overview of this category, and it's projected to have a slight increase of about 64,000. Of course, this category primarily encompasses basic general supplies utilized by city staff on a daily basis. The next slide provides an overview of capital outlays, which are, of course, expenditures to acquire or improve long-term assets. Some of the most noticeable increases within this category are, of course, about 184,000 in public works admin vehicles, 50,000 in police IT hardware and software infrastructure improvements, about $10,000 increase in police field vehicles from the previous year, about 65,000 in rec and community services vehicles and other equipment. One of the more higher areas would be 419,000 in IT hardware and software, as well as other equipment. These would be primarily servers and other hardware equipment utilized. And then, of course, about 300,000 in general fund capital improvement projects, primarily Ford Park Access Road, as well as the recycled water project in 24-25. This slide provides an overview of transfers out to other funds, in which we are projecting a net increase of about 300,000. This includes subsidy reductions to Ford Park and golf course operations, while seeing increases in transfers to gas tax, property tax, and Measure R. This slide provides an overview of debt service payments for the city in fiscal year 24-25. These are principal and interest payments for bonds and loans received by the city. In fiscal year 24-25, the debt service budget is about 610,000. Below this table is the city's total debt as of 6/30/2023. These figures are per the city's financial statements verified by our auditors as part of our annual financial process.
And Manuel, before you turn
Yes.
on this one, so if you I mentioned the CalPERS, that's the net pension liability. So that's, if you take the assets that CalPERS has, that the city of Bell Gardens has contributed since inception of the city, minus out what CalPERS calculates as will ever be paid out of CalPERS, you have a net liability of 49 million. And the retiree health liability, that's for retiree medical that was basically promised to employees previously. That's been pared down for the most part. But if you remove those two items, because those are the bulk of liabilities that you'll see with any government agencies, if you remove those, I think what's left is maybe around 11 or 12 million dollars, which is a fairly low debt load considering a general fund budget of 46 million dollars. The retiree health liability, net pension liability, most of the ways to bring that down, other than throwing a bunch of cash at those liabilities, is debt financing and things like that, but you're just moving one liability to another liability. So those are liabilities that every government agency continues to struggle with how to cover over a long-term basis, including the city of Bell Gardens.
Thank you. This slide presents a pie chart that identifies general fund expenditure percentages by department. As we can see, of course, it is a breakdown by the various city departments. And for some of them, we provided just a comparison of what it was in the previous year.
And Manuel, I think there's a couple points here to be made on the slide. On some of the larger pie pieces, you'll see that we put in a comparative amount from FY 23-24. The police one's obviously one that stands out. If you go back to fiscal year 2018, 19, 19, 20, that number's right in the 48 to 50% range. We are spending more on the police department than we did at that time, but we're spending less relative to all of the other departments. That's not accidental. It's not something that's just happened this way. If you look where the focus over the last 4 years or so has been to maintain the police department, as costs have gone up in the police department as well, but also focus new resources over into the public works side of things, improving the parks, things of that nature. Recreation is technically recreation and community services. So we have a community family service center with 4 full-time staff plus some incidental staff as well that didn't exist 4 or 5 years ago. That's majority funded by the general fund. If you look down at the community development group, they're up 20% just in 1 year, from 5% of the general fund budget to 6%. That's for the housing section for the most part. That's primarily funded by the rental registry fees. So by looking at this pie chart, especially if you looked at it comparative to last year, but if you looked at it comparative to even 4 or 5 years, you'll see where the newer resources have shifted while still maintaining the police department and spending more money. And I only bring up the police department because obviously the largest piece of the general fund pie there. Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you. This next slide provides a comparative breakdown of the general fund expenditures by department, showing the adopted 23-24 figures versus the proposed 24-25 expenditures. The next couple slides provide a detailed breakdown of the 23-24 program capital improvement projects in fiscal year 24-25. A projected amount of $13,461,706 worth of capital improvement projects are programmed. This includes some general fund projects, but the majority being non-general fund, such as grants and other various county measure funds and allocations. So as we can see, the 24-25 amount would be $13,461,706 in capital improvement projects are programmed.
And Manuel, just before moving off of this, just I think in the past we do focus a lot on the general fund because those are more of the discretionary revenues to the extent that they're not already contracted for through MOUs and contracts. In addition, we have special revenue funds, which we aren't necessarily depicting exactly here yet. But if you look, there's another $71 million worth of capital improvement projects. These are projects that will have anywhere from 15 to 30-year lives for the benefits of the residents and stakeholders of Bell Garden. For Bell Gardens for 24-25, we expect to expend about $13.5 million. So if you look at our general fund budget of about $46 million, we're also making progress by spending another $13.4 million of non-general fund money on capital improvement projects as well too. And then we'll have a total budget number coming up here in a few slides.
Correct. And so our next slide provides an overview of the all city funds budget for fiscal year 24-25. This encompasses all 35 active funds, which of course includes the general fund, but also special revenue funds such as gas tax, Cal Home, Props A and C, as well as measures R and M, to name a few. Capital project funds, enterprise funds such as water and golf, as well as successor agency funds associated with the former redevelopment. The total projected all fund budget for fiscal year 24-25 is $78,205,327.
And this is a number that, always kind of going back and forth between the general fund expenditures and then all city. So we cover the general fund in detail up because there's a lot more discretion there. It's about $46 million. But if you look at all of the projects that are done, if you think of the projects you see as you drive around Bell Gardens, most of the projects you see as you're driving around are not funded with general fund. So when you see things like stop signs or transit shelters or street overlays or alleyways that have been paved, if you see playgrounds where the physical infrastructure is being built, most of that is not general funded. That for the most part are coming from special revenue funds from different tax sources and grants. The Cal Home grants that we had 3 recipients of $100,000 earlier today is another example of special revenue funds that the city receives. So it's not quite double, but our general fund, is about 70% of the total, 65-70% of the total expenditures for the city. So I think it's always important for the council to know, when you're talking about your total budget as you're talking with residents, the number that I would always start with is the $78 million. The city spends $78 million a year. I think for those that are maybe a little more into municipal budgeting and understanding, the next level is to talk about the general fund. That's, $46 million of expenditures. And that is where more of your discretion lies. So just making a point there. And that number can be reduced at some point once we're done with the swimming pool project, and that probably that all cities funds number will drop back down to about the $65-66 million range. The general fund will be a higher percentage at that point. So thank you.
Thank you. But let's see, this slide provides an overview of the water utility fund, which is expected to have an operating deficit of about $1,105,000 for the year for 23-24. For 24-25, staff is projecting an overall operating loss of about $1.2 million. By the end of fiscal year 24-25, the water utility fund is expected to owe the general fund about $8.6 million.
So if we pause on this, Manuel, I think at the last council meeting, we're all very aware that we're building an aquatic center, that it's $31 million. We've got $16 million in grant funds. We're aware of our MOUs with our employee groups, where we've just talked about CalPERS expenditures and things of that nature. This is probably, I think from the staff's perspective, the biggest financial issue that we have, that we are working, we know what the solutions ultimately are. We're working on the solutions for to sort of stop this deficit from continuing going forward. I mentioned earlier we're about $7 million are owed to the general fund, and you can see in the box there, by the end of this fiscal year, it'll be $8.6 million. So we're working on we've got design work already in progress to clean up the water well that's shut down. Once the design work is done, which is close, then there's the actual work to build the system that would treat that water so that the city could start providing that water cleanly back to residents and get that deficit number on an annual basis back down to zero. The water that we pump is significantly cheaper. If it's clean, it's still cheaper than the water that we're currently buying for residents right now. Obviously, at some point, as we go through all of this, we'll come back to the council with other options that could even include selling the part of the water system that the city operates. You can imagine it's going to take a number of years for that water fund, even if we shut it off the groundwater today and switch to the pumped water. The city is still owed almost $9 million from the water users that are in that water district there. So you can imagine that would take maybe decades by charging additional fees over some period of time. So that's why the option of potentially selling that water system will be something that we would include in the list of options available for the council to decide. That would be one way to pay back the general fund for all of this deficit, and put that water system in the hands of a larger water system that has more economies of scale and access to more cleaner water wells than just the one water well that we run. So this is, again, I guess, just to keep focus on the council as we bring this item every 6 to 9 months, we have an update item with some progress. This, I think, is the biggest financial issue that we currently have to address it's really in the water fund, but it hits the general fund. So this one's always in the front of our minds. Thank you, man.
Thank you. And finally, just to provide a summary of course, the current 23-24 budget has a projected year-end surplus of about $166,000. The upcoming 24-25 budget is projected to have a surplus of $72,000. Factored into the proposed 24-25 budget is year 2 of a 3-year approved labor agreement, a salary increase with city personnel. As indicated, the water fund continues to run deficits while a treatment system is designed and funding sources are being identified. And of course, as indicated previously, all employee MOUs, contracts, purchases over $10,000 are presented to council for approval throughout the year.
And Manuel, if you pause on this one
Yes,
again, I think this is just one page for the summary, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Just on item number 5, this is an item that I think is important for the council. If I use my own experience at government agencies, the $10,000 limit that I've seen other plays have been 100,000, 75,000, 50,000 range. This is considered low, but as a city manager, I actually appreciate this dollar amount being low. It just means more items of a dollar amount that are in the 40, 50, 70, $80,000 range or above come before the council. And I think it's important that way it requires us to have a discussion with council and have these items come, even if they're on the consent calendar, they're still discussed as the agenda is prepared. And my hope is that this helps to give the council a more comfortable feeling with the budget that's reviewed and recommended and hopefully approved this fiscal year as it has been in previous fiscal years, that this isn't just you approve the budget and then all of a sudden we start spending a bunch of money that you don't really see again. I think at least in the city of Bell Gardens, it's to the contrary. We bring a lot more items back to council than what I'm used to in my other the other agencies that I've worked for. So we want to make a point to put it there just so you know, you can see that and recognize it. And then as these items come through to you on the agenda, if you keep this in mind, you'll notice some of these things coming. One example I'll give is on the consent calendar. We had a budgeted HVAC replacement item for the Public Works Administrative Building that I think was about $16,000. Many government agencies, you wouldn't see that. But I think it's important for transparency and just from the staff perspective and the relationship with the council to see as many of those items as possible. So just wanted to point that out. Thank you, man.
Thank you. That does conclude our presentation for tonight. Just before we finish, I just want to thank our finance staff for their efforts in putting this stuff together. It's a long process throughout the year to try to tabulate everything and keep track of everything and monitor, but just want to thank them. And of course, if there's any questions, we'd be more than glad to answer any questions that council might have.
Does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
Thank you so much for the presentation, Manuel. Also, thank you, Mike, for the consistent input. I had a brief question. It's more just like a finance 101 question for an institution or an agency like us. And it's about bonds. I know that consistently I see sometimes where special agencies, school districts, special districts will do a bond, put a bond measure on the ballot. My question is, what is like a bond measure? Why do institutions or agencies do this, and how do they work? Thank you.
Sorry, Manuel suffers from the fact that I come from the finance accounting background, so I know there's a blessing and a curse there. So
that is a good thing.
Here's the curse part.
We have more eyes looking at our budget, so thank you.
So it's interesting. I'm somewhat passionate in these bond issuances over the years. I believe a neighboring city a couple years ago had a bond measure that was voted on by the voters. It was to replace park equipment, all their park equipment at one time. So the purpose of issuing a bond is basically like people borrow money for a car or borrow money for a house. They need or want whatever they're going to pay for it. They want it now, and they are willing to pay for it over some period of time. So bonds will be typically issued over 15, 20, 30-year terms. As with a house or with a car, there's interest currently somewhere in the 4.5% to 7% range. If you were to look at a bond issuance today of, let's hypothetically say $15 million with a credit that's like 4.5% or 5% would be the interest rate, and somebody paid that off over 30 years. If they borrowed 15 million, when you add the principal and the interest, their probably total payback is in the 26 to 28 $million range. So, so that number work out?
Well, like 9 million in interest just
yeah.
alone.
So, but again, as people buy a car or a house, if you need a car to get to work, you accept the financing and that reality. If you need a house to live in, or you see there's some investment opportunity, or a relative needs a place to stay or something, that's a calculation that happens. So, really a bond is a government agency needs money, generally speaking, to pay for a one-time expenditure. So some new asset or to retire some liability. Somebody loans them the money, bondholders basically pay for that investment. They expect to receive a return of, roughly the 5 to 7% range currently for decent credits. And in exchange for receiving the money today, you pay it back with interest. So it's just a calculation that's made. I think that generally answers the question.
And
Councilman.
in recent history, I think the OPEB liabilities for pension have been probably the biggest bond issue that most cities have tried to address. We actually went through the validation process and got validation with the county court office. So that's a tool that down the road, if we ever decided we wanted to use it or explore it, it's there as a potential option. But that's probably, I would say, probably the biggest issue in recent history, Mike.
Yeah, I think for the city of Bell Gardens, as Manuel mentioned, so if you issue a bond, you're either buying, let's say, some new playground equipment or a new pool. You could also use it to retire some other debt. So if you have, let's say, your CalPERS liability, let's say CalPERS is charging you an implied interest rate of 6%, but you could issue bonds at 5%. You borrow the money from bondholders, basically investors, send the money to CalPERS, get the liability down, and theoretically, if they were charging you 6%, now you're only paying 5%. You're saving, some hundreds of thousands of dollars in there. We went through the process of going through to getting the city validated to show that our financial statements are accurate, that the city's a good credit, et cetera. But it hasn't made sense to move forward on it because of the bond rates being as high as they are. A lot of cities were issuing those bonds 3 or 4 years ago when the rates were in the 3 or 3.5 range. So it may make sense again in the future. We're ready if bond rates come down, but that will also tie back to what I mentioned earlier with the Federal Reserve Bank bringing interest rates down. Then presumably and usually the rates would come down on bonds that would be issued by government agencies.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Any more comments or questions? No? Okay, so may I have a motion to approve resolutions 1 and 2 on this item?
So moved.
Sorry, just for clarification, there's actually three resolutions. So it's 2024-44, 2024-45, and 2024-43.
May I have a motion to approve those items just mentioned?
So moved.
Second.
City Clerk, we have a motion by Councilmember Chavez and a second by Councilwoman Sanchez de Leon. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the Council, Successor Agency Chavez,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulido,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena,
Yes.
and Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We will now move to council member comments. Councilmember Chavez.
Just want to go ahead and thank staff for the assistance. It seems like we hadn't had a meeting, one meeting in May and then one meeting now. We're gonna have 2 meetings in June, so just exciting time, excited for summer. So glad to see all the summer programming coming out, summer concerts and movies. It's always good to be out there. And with that said, just again, thank you to all the staff, thank you, city manager, and hope everyone has a great night. Thank you, everybody.
Councilmember Pulido,
No comments from me. Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Like mentioned before, there was a golfing event on May 23rd in partnership with Janice Hahn for the Tee It Up initiative in Sela. We had a great turnout. I want to thank the Latina Golfers Association for being there. Because of the great turnout and the high interest, we're actually going to have another event later on this month in June. So thank you for all those that attended. I also want to congratulate the class of 2024 Bell Gardens High School graduates that had their graduation last Thursday. Like Mr. Miranda has mentioned before, it's one city, one high school. And so continuing that partnership to support our high school and vice versa. So thank you to staff for all that you do as well.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very excited about an event. I want to invite all of you guys. I know that some of our council and some staff is part of the Kiwanis club, so they might not be able to be there. But if you are free on June 28th, there's gonna be a concert. It's gonna be cumbia, ska, rock, and then psychedelic trance. So plenty of opportunity to expand your musical palette. And this is going to take place at the skate park. There's going to be a dancing area, thanks to our director of recreation that helped us plan out the layout. So that's coming up June 28th. Hope to see you guys there. I think it'll be fun. Bring your kids, bring your family. I did want to inquire to the city manager in regards to Julia Asmus Park in the artwork. Is there a reason why the artwork is not done?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. So we're working with more local artists, and we have, because we're a government agency, we've had to have some, we usually have contracts signed and things of that nature and some insurance issues. So they're not generally set up for that level of sophistication and bureaucracy. I don't mean negative bureaucracy, but bureaucracy by a general definition. So we've been working with them, particularly, I'm going to call him Lucha Cat. I can't remember his first name, Javier, to work out with them, basically the contracting and the insurance and that. So as of last week, it seemed that we had made pretty much close to finishing up, but I'll look for Director Nava. Is there any update with Javier? I think as of late last week, I saw that we were working with him. Oh, I'm sorry, Director Iniguez. I knew it was one of them. So we've had basically the bureaucratic issues that the city just has requirements for as far as contracting and even tax reporting and things of that nature. Because they're more local artists, they don't have the same already pre-built level of administrative ability. So we've been working with them to help them through that and make sure that we're making sure we're meeting all our grant requirements and that. But I'll turn over to Director Iniguez to give a little more detail.
Yes, Mr. Kelly, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Mayor Pro Tem, we have been engaging with Mr. Solorzano. We have given them the insurance requirements that the city needs, and also some direction as to how we're gonna be structuring the contracts, because we are gonna enter into 3 separate contracts with each individual artist. So at this point, I have conveyed that information and I'm awaiting Javier's response.
So just to clarify, you guys are waiting for Javier's response, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Just want to make note of that. And then last but not least, I want to thank Hyles again for that success. I didn't explicitly recognize you, but that post that got 66,000, that's a big deal. That's those kinds of numbers for a small city like us. They matter a lot. So good job, whatever it is that you're doing with social media and the city's account and growing that. Please continue to do that, because it's good. It's working out. And then the city app, I wanted to ask the city manager if we can please have an item, either an item or even just as part of your city manager's report, stats on the city app, how many requests and whether adoption is going as planned or if we need to try different things. I'd like to know whether it's in an item or even in your report will be good enough. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, well, we can put together a discussion item for the next meeting. I think it's helped since it's a new product that we just launched 6 months ago to give an update as to what we've done, the responses that we have, how many downloads, how many requests for services of that nature. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and last but not least, I do want to say thank you to my colleagues for taking a big step today towards diversifying our funding sources. We saw the graph. We know that we depend heavily on the bicycle casino, but with this big decision that you guys had the courage to make today, I feel like it not only satisfies the promises that I made to my constituents from the moment that I got elected, but I feel like it continues to, it's going to make a big difference in people's lives. Let's just say that. We allocated 80% of that revenue to doing good things, and I think it's going to show and it's going to make a difference. And I want to thank you for having the courage to make those hard decisions. It's not easy, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, I wanted to apologize for arriving late to the meeting. But one of the reasons, well, the reason why I was late is because I was invited to attend a meeting between Supervisor Janice Hahn and the Mexican Consul Carlos Gonzalez Gutierrez, I believe is his name. If I got it right. And there were other council members from our surrounding Cela region. The purpose of the meeting was to establish closer ties with the Mexican consulate. They have some initiatives that they want to promote. As you know, Mexico recently had their elections, and the first woman president of Mexico was elected, Claudia Sheinbaum. And so one of the things that they want to do is one of the statistics that they provided is that this year's election had twice as many voters of Mexican nationals outside of the United States voting in these elections. And so it's really important for people who are of Mexican descent, who were born in Mexico, maybe they are now permanent residents now, but it's important for them to know that they can also participate in the process as long as they have their dual citizenship. So that's one of the initiatives that they are trying to work on now, is to increase the processing of dual citizenship requests. They also wanted to urge us to reach out to them because there are certain services that the consulate can provide to Mexican nationals that perhaps will fill in gaps in services that people cannot receive here from our government entities here. He did also thank us and compliment us for our grito that we had back in September of last year. That is a big initiative in building, they call it Orgullo Mexicano, right? So it was a really interesting meeting. There's a lot that they can do for us in terms of, for example, their mobile consulate coming out to the cities. They want to do a lot more outreach out here. So I'm hoping that we can engage with them a bit more and create an event out here where they can do some outreach to our communities. Also, I wanted to thank our social media team, Hylis. Hylis is our social media team, a team of one, for all of the bike advocacy posts, safe streets, posts that I saw on social media, instructing people how to share the road, to watch out for cyclists and pedestrians during Bike Month. So thank you so much for that. And with that, thank you to staff for all the work that you do all the time. And with that, I will say Happy Pride Month to everyone. And if there's no objection by the members, I will now adjourn the City Council Successor Agency Joint Meeting at what time is it? Oh, 9:55 p.m. Is that right? Yes, 9:56. Thank you.